All right, this is the February video chat. I have several announcements this time. Okay, I guess the first stuff is all on Stop Killing Games and then just regular video stuff. Okay, so that big promotion that I mentioned last time, not only did I get bad information, but now it's more in question. I wish I could give more details, and I will at some point, but I don't want to screw it up by talking too much about it. I'll just say that the situation is kind of reminding me of when I was trying to get a straight answer back at Machinima about my contract. I'm not the one actually handling this. It's being done by the European Citizens Initiative organizers. So I'm just getting kind of secondhand information on it. But now it's more in limbo without giving more details. I personally am giving it one more month, and if we don't have just something solid, I'm kind of almost there already. I'm just kind of assuming it's not going to happen now, which is really bad for the European Citizens Initiative if that is the case. So I'm trying to scramble to see if I can get more done, assuming it doesn't work. So right now it's still not certain, but I'm not waiting on it either. So on that note, I've been in touch with someone who has experience with marketing and doing ad campaigns and stuff like that. There's nothing concrete yet. They're going to be able to put together a plan, and we'll be able to get some estimates as to like how much something like that would cost and what the like estimated reach would be. One tricky part is it's unclear if this would count as having to be a political ad or not, because it's not like we're trying to get anyone elected, but we are trying to put an initiative forward, even though if it's not, I don't know. The point is, if that is a political thing, we might have to, that might really limit where we can show it or how it's handled. So again, I'm not committing to that unless the estimated numbers look very promising. Because the last thing I want to do is some fundraiser on this, but let's see. But that I am looking into it just to make sure one way or another. If it does look promising, unfortunately, I might have to do more on that. But for the UK petition, I can put okay. I want to be careful about this one because this part is kind of only for people who are residents or citizens of the UK. So if you're not, including myself, I kind of prefer you don't get involved with this, but they do have a website where you can give complaints about the petition. If you are from the UK, or I would, suggest you might send a civil complaint. Don't give them lots of threats or anything like that, but just say that the answer we got back was not good because it really didn't address the question, or not the question, but the complaint. Like the answer was talking about, keeping support up, whereas that's not what it was about. We were asking about the ability to retain or repair the game once they shut it down. So here, I'll give a link to that. That'll be in the description when this goes on YouTube also. But that's the link to it. There's an email and a phone number there. Again, please don't harass them. Please, act like you're talking to a judge or something about it. But you might want to give, let them know that, hey, this answer wasn't sufficient that they sent, Because even if they're saying no, can you explain why, that actually addresses our complaints, So those are the two things I would mention. It doesn't really address it because it's talking about support, which wasn't even part of the complaint, and it doesn't really address any way to retain or repair the game. So, which is, like all the existing agencies don't really go down that route, hence why we were proposing new law. This week has been kind of busy for me. I've done 3 interviews trying to, get more exposure on European Citizens Initiative. I'll have links for all of them in the YouTube description, though Not all of them are up on YouTube yet. One is by Siggy Snake, who does kind of, sort of video essay videos most of the time on various topics, and they were interested in this. So I had an interview with them. Another one was with a drama YouTuber, Chud Logic. This is sort of outside the normal zone of people I'm interacting with because I have no idea vast majority of the time what's going on with drama, but because of the whole pirate software fiasco, he was interested in talking to me, so I figured, sure, I'll basically talk to anybody who I think this will help, And the third one was Tech Over Tea, who a YouTuber who covers a lot of mostly like Linux related stuff, but also gaming and all things along that nature also. I don't think they have it up on YouTube yet, but we had the stream, so I'll have links to all that and I'll update it later. But yeah, somebody's saying the pirate drama paying off. Well, maybe, look, I will 100%, if a big drama YouTuber wants me to weigh in on that, I will 100% take that opportunity to try to talk more about the campaign, to try to refer to Stop Killing Games. So if that's the bait that's needed, sure. I'm not, it's like I'm not really trying to start a bunch of beef with them. I'm just trying to get signatures. That's really my whole goal. So it would be a means to an end. Now, the bad news about that is I kind of looked at the signature statistics on it after I did that, and it really could have just been statistical noise. So I'm not sure that's having any impact at all. So that's unfortunately kind of confirming my suspicions that I personally am kind of reaching the bounds of what I'm able to influence. And the only way out of this is to try to get to just completely different, not demographic, I guess sort of demographics, but especially like non-English speakers or, parts of the gamer culture that I'm just completely not in touch with, that sort of thing. So on that note, there's a few more. I forgot. There's a few more coming. There may be another kind of cross promotion with Tech Tangent. That's someone that also made contact. Runs a YouTube channel. The most famous video, well, I don't know if this is the most famous, but the video I know them from is where he got the original version of Doom to work on multiple monitors because of code that was in the original that they patched out. That was pretty impressive. He does a lot of like legacy hardware and gaming stuff. And the other one is I've made contact with Josh Strife Hayes, though he says he's going to be busy until mid-April. So I guess maybe later I'll be talking to him. But yeah, it feels like I'm kind of scraping the barrel. So since this has taken up a lot of my time, my general policy at the moment is if there are obvious opportunities I should respond to, I will. But other than that, I'm kind of winding it down on my end because I feel like there's only so much I can do. Because the vibe I'm getting is that I could spend every single day, all day from now until the end of July trying to campaign, and it might only get us a few thousand more signatures. And the thing is, if we don't cross the 1 million threshold, then none of this matters. So, I mean, the other action matters with the Consumer Protection Agency, but that's already going on. That doesn't need us campaigning on it. So, if that's the case, I'm not good with working on efforts that are futile to me. I don't think this is futile, but I think we do need lucky breaks. We need a big YouTuber or streamer to talk about it. Yeah, my wife keeps joking that she's like, oh, you should contact PewDiePie. It's like, yeah, like I have any way of doing that, or that he would even care necessarily. So it's, we would kind of need someone big to cover it. And you're kind of seeing the limits of what I can do. Now, if something comes along, I'll go with it. But other than that, if you're in touch with other streamers or YouTubers, you probably have a better chance of making contact on this than I do. And again, you don't have to refer them to me. You can, or even stopkillinggames.com. We just need to send them to the European Citizens Initiative, especially. So, yeah, I'm not ready to call it, but I'm scraping the barrel on this. And actually, all those interviews I did, those were all I guess it is a good thing we set up the Discord. Those are all the result of volunteers making contact and then kind of relaying it back towards me, which I think emerged from the Discord. So it's helping. I mean, I think if it gets us any signatures, which is still unclear looking at the statistics. Maybe when some of their videos get up on YouTube, they'll get a few more signatures because most of it was just streaming. Okay, and so yeah, we either the ad campaign is going to look promising and God, I really don't want to, but we might look at going down that route, or we can make contact with enough people to kind of get attention on this again, or at least a couple big people that don't mind mentioning it. Other than that, it might be cooked for the Citizens Initiative. I don't, or the big promotion comes through. It's still too early to call, but I no longer. We've gone from this is happening, we just need a date, to, well, maybe we need to look at this some more. It's like, so we've backpedaled. So I'm assuming nothing on it now. Maybe I need to be more tabloid about it. I don't really think that's my strength. You know, it's, yeah. Or maybe others who know what they're doing and how to get attention of other streamers can help more on this. Because again, you know what, we have over 400,000 signatures. If I made a video that's gotten 400,000 signatures in that span of time, that's well above average for me. And these are European Union citizen signatures, whereas mine would just be total. So I'm already punching above my weight, but it's still not enough. So we'll see, you know. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess the message to sort of close that out on is, I really believe if we can cross that threshold, this ends the problem. But if we can't get people to care about this, I mean, I don't know how to solve that. So it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. If people can actually care about this, and unfortunately are in the EU, you know, like because nobody else is eligible, then I think we win this. If we can't, then we kind of have to roll the dice on the other measures that we did. So gamers are kind of in their control of their own fate on this. I've done my part as much as I'm able, and I'll keep doing it, but I'm not going to be pursuing stuff that feels futile to me. I think people would rather I get back to the regular videos. So yeah, I'm open to ideas. Yeah, you can still email me, you know, rosswscott@gmail.com, or go to the Discord. You know, there's a link to that in the channel and on the stopkillinggames.com website. Oh, shoot, one more thing. On the Stop Killing Games website, that's going to be updated. We're going to be retiring a lot of the options you see on there now because they're underway. The changes are going to be, we're just going to focus on the remaining stuff left, which is the European Citizens Initiative, the UK petition, and if you still own a copy of The Crew and just missed the wave for some reason, something with the UFC. We're leaving that link up, though. That's mostly not exactly underway, but like ready to go if we do have to pursue that route. We will have a page detailing everything that we've done to date. So, you know, we will show all the past stuff we've attempted. I'm also adding a few extra questions to the frequently asked questions section, ones that kind of came up again and again that weren't quite covered. I'm only adding a few, though, because, I mean, it's the ones that kind of come up a lot, not necessarily the really minute ones that have come up. And I think that's it. So we're kind of simplifying it a bit, but yeah, it's much more in gamers' court now if they want this to work. Like, because I'm running low for what I know how to do. But I think it. But if we can pass that, then I think it works. So, all right. So that's it for Stop Killing Game stuff. For video announcements, I'm just gonna give you my plans, which have gotten derailed in the past. But here's what I'm planning at the moment. I kind of want to do another regular game dungeon first, and I've started work on that. Then I'll do the game dungeon follow-up episode, which is kind of partially completed. Then I want to try to get a spree. I'm not sure how many yet, but of Freeman's Mind episodes, because that's gotten badly neglected. Then maybe at some point in the middle of this, I might try to get this side video that's been kind of 75% done, just sitting on hard drives for a long time to finish it off. Then maybe some shorter game dungeons and/or Freeman's Mind. And then once I feel like I've kind of built up a little, at least a small stockpile of videos to kind of keep people tied away, then I want to get back to work on the movie. And where I would spend weeks, possibly a couple months, just trying to nail down the damn framework for all this, so that basically I won't keep going until the movie's done, but I'll keep going until I know we have a solid plan for how to do basically any scene in the movie from a technical perspective, because I don't have that yet. And until I have that, it feels like a sword of Damocles hanging over my head, where I don't want to know how to do 90% of the movie, but then this one scene, I have no idea, and it might stop everything dead in its tracks. So as long as I know what software we'll be using, I'll know what like motion capture methods we'll be using. Like have some systems for like, getting characters to kind of walk around, kind of make it easier and simpler, have some shortcuts for it. So it's basically everything I wanted to be doing last year if I wasn't doing this damn campaign. So I'm trying to wind it down, the campaign, as much as I can, so I can finally just get a lot more progress done on this, because it's driving me insane. It really is. And I would just do that straight from the campaign to this, but then that would just piss off way too many people not having more videos. So, too many things going on, but the more I can close, then the better, Okay, so on that, I'll get to the submitted questions. I'll take the live ones at the end, or sometimes I randomly notice them. So, let's see. Oh yeah, and I noticed a lot of these questions were kind of rougher too. So I'll give my best, but some of these I may not want to answer again in the future. But okay, if you were to switch your career tomorrow, what would it be? Well, that's a tricky one, because I'm getting to middle ages, so that's a lot of jobs, the doors on those kind of closed unless you're experienced and have a long background in them, and you only have kind of entry level stuff, which they prefer younger people for anyway. But so I guess there's kind of the semi-real answer, and there's sort of the imagining answer. Semi-real answer, the most experience I have probably from other jobs would be, building computer systems and doing general repair. So trying to find a repair shop. But I'm in Poland, so I'm not bilingual enough for that. So that would have to be like kind of in an English speaking country. But I'm pretty sure I could get back up to speed and maybe, grab some credentials that they're looking for, like an A+ certification or something. Yeah, I could get back into speed pretty quickly. But for stuff that I want to do, here's a question back at the audience. What job has the least amount of hours you need to put into it? That's something I've always wondered, even as a kid. I'm not sure there is a great answer. But yeah, I mean, once I was just kind of floating. Part of me would want to do a job that would maybe do work for like the Forestry Service or like a park ranger or something. Because I don't know, I like being in forest, though I'm not sure I'd want to be in forest quite that much. I kind of like a balance. So somebody's saying a cult leader. Now, hey, now I wouldn't want to start a cult, but I'm open-minded on the idea of like what intentional community, and maybe I could kind of leverage people, the audience I have, not most of them, but maybe the 0.1% will be down for us starting an intentional community. Yeah, that's a good idea. That we can maybe make that work. We could figure out what we want to put together. And since it wouldn't be about like an actual cult thing and we'd be just about, I think our theme would just be something that could survive pretty well, like an economic collapse or something like that. Um, yeah, I'd be willing to experiment with something like that. So yeah, that might be a better, yeah, that might be not impossible job occupation. Yeah, so not a cult leader, but just like a prominent community member of some experimental, intentional community. Yeah, somebody says sysadmin. I don't have the background for that. I mean, I even though I've done a lot with computers, it's not on the programming end or administrative. But let's see. Well, someone's asking about Freeman's mind. I answered that earlier. It's coming at some point, but it unfortunately is in line before a few other things. So yeah, no, that's a good answer. Part of me wouldn't mind work. Yeah, that's the thing. Like so many jobs that used to be more casual are a lot less casual now. Because I was thinking, like, if you were to go like decades back, like working at something like an amusement park might be not the most grueling job, but now it's like a lot of things have gotten more corporate, so they're gonna have all these like stringent standards. And well, actually, back in the early 2000s, I applied for work at a video store and like a video rental store. And the thing is, I probably could have gotten the job, but just during the interview process, I realized this isn't really about running the register and like giving people movie recommendations. This is a sales job. They want you pushing all this crap on customers. I'm thinking, oh God, I would feel awful just doing that all day. Pushing things that people don't want or just kind of being in their face about it. So I'm thinking that's another example. I mean, now the video rental stores are dead, but it was showing it back then too. So a lot of jobs, they want you to be, okay, now that's an interesting thing. Somebody's saying you be an entertaining Let's Play streamer. I look at being a professional streamer for me as kind of joining the dark side. Like that's or maybe not the dark side, but like Land of the Lotus Eaters, from the Odyssey, where I feel like I could do that. I mean, I wouldn't be the best streamer, but I feel like I could be better than just some random people I've seen. And yeah, that's an alluring idea to just be playing games or, just looking up news or responding to clips that I'm interested in all day. But I feel like, that would kind of, that would siphon away time from, I guess in my mind, more worthwhile things. But no, that is like what's the word? I don't know why I can't think of the word. I guess alluring, seductive maybe. Yeah, seductive option. But I feel like that wouldn't be good in the long term, I guess. But that would potentially be an easy way out. Yeah, although even then I would probably, make the hours shorter than like what a lot of the long-term people do. But yeah, no, you're right. That is an option. Yeah, that's right. I heard there was like a Twitch had its own adpocalypse, so I don't know how viable that is, but I could probably like hit the ground running at least at a certain level from it. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, no, we'll put it like this. There's no way I'd consider that until the movie's done, at the very least. So, but no, I think doing that would threaten stuff like Game Dungeon or Freeman's Mind or other videos, because then it's like I'm spending all my time doing this other stuff. And even though that would be fun, doing games and watching things and talking about things, just talking all day, I think would kind of wear you down to an extent. It probably depends on your personality, because I have plenty of days I don't really feel like talking to anyone. So it's, you're doing that. It's the sort of thing where it'll probably be a lot of fun at first, but then going the long haul, you have to get in the real right state of mind for that. Let's see. Okay, next question. How do you schedule your week with your content? Is it 9 a.m. to noon, play game for next game dungeon, noon to 2 p.m., work on finishing previous game dungeon, 2 p.m. to 5, stop killing game stuff, or something like that? No, for a few reasons. Yeah, well, one, I mean, actually playing the game for a game dungeon, I'd say that's 10 to 20% of the time involved with making one. Vast majority of it's editing, but no, I guess what it is, every time I've attempted that in the past, my time predictions tend to be very poor. Usually, I mean, for stuff I'm working on, because my brain has this habit of taking things that are simple in concept and just assuming they won't be that long, whereas just even little things that are simple to do, no, they just always take a lot longer than I think they will. So what might happen is I'll budget something that I think will take about 2 hours, then it ends up taking 5 to 6, and now that's screwed the entire rest of my schedule, and then I feel awful, and then if all my other plans were like this, then that feels bad too. And the thing is, I'm already in a state where I perpetually feel like I'm behind on everything and just feel bad about that. So I kind of don't want to double down on that feeling too. The way it tends to work is, like, I'll start, towards the start, or sometimes I just already know after getting up, like, what's sort of the priority for that day. It's like, okay, well, like for today, I knew I needed to like go over the questions to have a clue what I'm talking about, but then I've tried to catch up more on emails, didn't get as far as I wanted to, and then do more stuff for Game Dungeon, which I did some, but not a lot. And even then, I'll usually make like a list. Even then, I want to say like 98% of the time, I never get to everything that's on my list. So I feel bad about that too. So it would be even more demoralizing at having it down to the hour. Another reason is that sometimes if I feel like I have momentum on something, I don't want to cut that for just because I set a number of hours. So that's especially true with writing. If I feel like I'm having kind of like, it's kind of flowing, then that's the last thing I want to do is just cut it off. Another reason is sometimes my state of mind is better for some tasks than others. Like, again, with writing, if I have like a lot of energy and ideas, that's a much better time to do that sort of thing. Whereas something like audio editing, like trimming down clips or volume levels, if I'm doing that, or reviewing it, even after getting help, that's, in my mind, for me personally, that's like more mindless and just kind of repetitive. So that's something that even if I'm not in a great mood or I'm just not having many creative thoughts, that's something I can still do or work on. So I try to lean into where my mind's at the moment because there's usually always like 10 things I need to be doing at any given time. So I try to favor the ones that are going to be a little more compatible for my state of mind. And the final reason is, while doing it for short-term duration, like a few days or a few weeks, isn't a problem, having a really regimented schedule for me in the long term, that's kind of what makes me die inside a little bit. I'm not sure exactly why. It's just I start feeling a lot more trapped, and much more in like a office space state of mind. So I don't want to foster that feeling any more than is necessary. Again, if it's for short-term stuff, that's not a problem. But long-term, that's when it starts working on me. So I guess that's just how my brain's wired. Okay, next question. What's your opinion on GOG's Dream List thing? Making sure older games can run on modern hardware if voted on enough. Well, I think they have two different things they're doing. I'm not sure which is which. There's the Dream List, which they're kind of, it might. Usually most of the games that are on their store work out of the box and are good to go. Now, a few aren't. I've run into that in the past, but I'm not sure that's what the Dream List is about. I think the Dream List is more for games that aren't in their store that people would like them to add. And lately they're using that as a way to kind of put more pressure on publish or rights holders to share their rights on it so they can put it in the store. Like I think they were able to pull that off with Dino Crisis. Yeah, which is a series I haven't played. My surface level impression is that it's Resident Evil but with dinosaurs. So sure, I could see wanting to play that. That's a good idea to kind of show. Well, one, it helps them focus on like what are the best games for them to be putting in the store. But two, I think they're recently starting to use that to give pressure to publishers or right holders to kind of say, hey, look, here's a market of people ready to buy your game if you're willing to just do the paperwork on these rights. I'm all for it. I had another thought, but I lost it. Okay, I guess I lost it, but yeah, I don't think it was that important, whatever it was. So, yeah, it's less of a priority for me because if I really want a game, I can hunt down an abandonware copy of it if it's no longer for sale. But it's nicer and more convenient to have it above board, and have a copy you can buy that's supported, and you don't have to jump through a bunch of hoops to getting it working on a modern system. But man, I really had another thought, but I lost it. But yeah, I think I mentioned before, it's like even when you forget stuff, at least with me, I usually remember emotionally how important it was. So sometimes I forget something and I remember, oh, that's important, and then it bugs me. Then other things like, nah, it didn't matter. So this was in the didn't matter category. So. Oh yeah, this says there are currently 6 games on your games list that you rated as fantastic. Yeah, I think they're quoting me. My life is better because I played this game. It's how you define fantastic in your YouTube video. Can you share how these 6 games made your life better? Well, that's more of like a state of mind. It's more like, it's probably the same for all these games. Yeah, I think I had Subnautica on there, Axiom Verge, I put way up. It's more like, when I think of just gaming in general, when I think about like just like the highest high points of it were like this just felt like just such an incredible experience that like these are like new memories of how I'm gonna look at things in the future in a really positive way because often because of the aesthetics of it or just it made me really have like just sort of like an otherworldly experience and just kind of like really left an impression on you. In just like a permanent way, and really, that's those for me personally. Those are the ones I would put in just like the absolute top tier. Where I thought, let's see, I thought it really delivered that. So it's not like it necessarily like taught you a life skill and then that changed how you think. It's just that. When you think about when you think back on some of your fondest memories possible in games, it's one of those games and it didn't have all these caveats attached to it. So it's not like it was really awesome, but then it was like really horrible in other spots. So it was just a great game and you just got like the full experience of it from it, and you really appreciate it. Stuff like that is like what I kind of aspire to in gaming, and like I hope, a lot of games I play may end up leading to that. Again, vast majority of the time it doesn't get to that level, but every once in a while it does, and it really, it just kind of reinforces the entire experience. Let's see, I'll answer more live questions towards the end. I'll try and get through some a little bit faster this time. When you're playing games that feature a lot of exploration, what kind of things do you like discovering the most? Things that make me kind of question, that kind of raise a lot of questions. Like if I'm exploring and then I see something, so say you're playing like a medieval fantasy game, and then you really go off the beaten path, and then you find like a crashed spaceship or something like that. Things that like, kind of. This is exactly what I mean. But I'm thinking of, I think it was like the end of Men in Black 2, where he like opens this locker and then it kicks open the door, and it's like this locker room of like a completely other alien universe or something like that. So things that give like hints that there's maybe way more going on in the story that you realize. Those are like my favorite discoveries. Like there can be a main plot, but it could be there's stuff that's a much bigger picture that you're only given like real small fragments of if you're exploring, and it kind of makes you wonder where you're going with this. I like those are my favorite elements. Let's see. Considering the grim present of the 2020s, has there been any good news that have caught your eye and given hope for the future, surprised you? For example, any innovations in sustainability or democratic progress in some country? Well, let's see. I'd say in technological advancements in medicine might be very promising. I mean, I forget the details, but I think because of AI, we're probably going to see a lot more detection rate of many diseases, or maybe be able to find a lot of, I guess, treatments or like individual cures for many maladies, because we can use the software to spot patterns that we can't just even with training and training and a careful eye and that sort of thing. Well, I've heard at the World Economic Forum recently there was a call from the United States to to ask for unilateral agreement with Russia and China to have a de-escalation of nuclear weapons, like try to like retire nuclear weapons. Now, I'm extremely skeptical that would happen, but I consider just even toting that narrative out as a positive. I mean, that gets us more seconds on the doomsday clock. I'm all for that. Speaking for doomsday scenarios, we've spotted a major asteroid that I think it's up to 2% chance of hitting the Earth by, I think it was in 7 years. But I think China was talking about like even launching like some sort of rocket or missile towards it just early on, just in case, to kind of get it off course. So I'm thinking, great, that we're detecting problems or stopping problems before they happen, if they even do happen. So yeah, I consider stuff like that positive. For other, I'm fuzzy on details, but I think they're looking in. I saw some articles on that they might have found ways to break down microplastics and for filtering forever chemicals. But I think that's still, I'm really fuzzy on the details. It's just the sort of thing where I just read a little bit of a blurb of, but don't remember much of. I don't think it's like there for like widespread deployment yet or anything like that. Oh, I think I read well, unfortunately, I've read a lot of articles like this over the years, but I read another one where apparently for data storage, I think this lab had developed a disk that can hold like 200 terabytes that they might release. Maybe, I mean, probably not to the consumer level at first, but maybe that could trickle down to the consumer level, because I'm not sure what the answer is these days for like long-term storage of a lot of data. I mean, 200 terabytes would take care of everything I own, but I mean, but then what I would probably do is just fill the remainder of the disk with just, I don't know, all the backups for that year or something, and you know. But I'd love to have like really robust long-term storage. I do have some of those. I did end up buying a burner and some of those Millennium discs that allegedly can last hundreds of years. So I'll take some chances on that. But those, I think the regular ones you only get about 25 gigs per disc, which, depending on what you're storing, can be all you'll ever need, or no, you need a whole lot more. So it just depends, you know. So I was saying, did you hear about the scientists creating mirror life and how it can end all of us? I think I may have like glanced at a headline, but didn't read any other details. Oh yeah, I mentioned this on Twitter. Let's see, maybe I can find this. I saw what might be the gaming headline of the year. Let's see if yeah, here we go. Yeah, this is in PC Gamer. Let's see. Let's see. Did they change that? Yeah, somebody screenshotted it just in case they changed it. I better check that. Okay. Yeah, they did change it a little bit. Okay. Game made in consultancy with alien abductees delist itself after claiming it received a bomb threat for making certain information public. And then a tagline, we can't answer too many questions. I saw that. I'm like, gaming headline of the year, you know. But we'll see if 2025 could top that for a headline. Yeah, and they did change the headline a little bit to now. Okay, let's see. And I almost closed a window that might have closed the chat. I didn't, so that's good. Or a tab. What is your favorite childhood memory you wouldn't mind sharing? I didn't have a lot of obvious ones. I mean, it might be like relatively, like, I guess, I don't know if basic's the word, but typical. Well, I mean, I guess some of the highlights are just amusement parks, you know, just going on rides. Like, I remember I traveled with my family in Tennessee. There's Pigeon Forge, which is kind of a tourist trap for, they have all these amusement parks and mini golf and just like all these cool statues and fun attractions. And I remember just loving that as a kid. Let's see. Another I remember, let's see, what was another one? Oh yeah, I think I mentioned this one before. For one Christmas, I got a gift from my grandmother that was this Lego space station. I thought that was just like the most amazing thing. Like, it was way beyond my expectations of what I thought I would get for Christmas. So that was a highlight. I mean, I guess just general fun stuff. So let's see. I remember doing things like, you know, building ramps, doing sledding, that sort of thing, or yeah, or making zip lines and trees. You know, carrying a rope, making a hack together zip line that I ended up collapsing while I was on it once, but it was pretty fun prior to that point. Oh, there was also like these foam rubber mats that I was able to like lay out and use a hose, and was able to kind of do like make a water slide out of it down a hill. But I was also able to spread them out, and what I found was if I slid down kind of on my knees, I could sort of bunny hop from that and then clear the gap for jumping from like mat to mat that way. That was kind of neat, though. If I missed it, then that would mess up. That would kind of scrape my knees. But I got pretty good at just doing like little hops like that. But let's see. Well, I guess the last one I'll mention is I would often, my parents would often sometimes visit my uncle for the 4th of July because I grew up in, Southwest Virginia and he was in Tennessee. And the thing is, in Tennessee, actually it might have changed now, there were basically no fireworks regulations, whereas there were a lot in Virginia. So we would go over there, and as soon as you cross the state line, you see these big fireworks outlets, billboards and stuff. So we would go to his place to have fireworks because you could set off anything. I remember one, it was, I was kind of young for this one. So we were up in kind of like this barn area. I was with my aunt because my mother didn't really trust me to get too close to the fireworks. So they started setting them off like down in front of us. And one of them was a bottle rocket that did a complete J curve on us. Like went like, and it didn't hit us, but it just like, it went not exactly at 180, but like, 160, 170 degrees on us. That kind of woke us up. And then another one, it was some sort of spinning thing, and it just kind of went like really in place, and then it just tore off, and it chased my uncle like in a straight line, and just went like wham, and you heard it hit the side of like a barn door, and then there was a pause, and from my perspective, I couldn't see anything, and then all of a sudden, like it started like hovering up right in front of us where I was with my aunt, and then she like immediately just kind of slammed these window doors right in front of us. That was funny because that thing acted almost like it had sentience or something. So yeah, that's a general smattering of good childhood memories. What are your top highlights of 2024 not related to gaming? Yeah, I had to think. It was kind of a blur. I guess, one thing is I learned, I think it was 2024, I figured it out. Now, I'm not even sure if, I was trying to, if I didn't. I finally figured out how to do the outpainting on wallpapers. So now I can expand wallpapers to ultra wide, and it looks like a lot like it was by the original artist. And just to clarify, I'm not generating art and taking away from artists. It's just I'm kind of enhancing the edges, kind of using for my own personal use. But it took me a while to figure that out, how to do a good job on it. So I felt proud of that. I guess I've more regularly started doing pull-ups. It's something I've always been meaning to do, but it's like it takes time to develop a habit, But I'm finally doing that. That kind of happened more in 2024. Because, I always regularly exercise, but usually pull-ups, it's like I would do some and then forget about it. Then several days later, oh yeah, I should do more of those. And then, not related to gaming. Let's see. Again, I can't remember if it was last year or year before, but I finally put together like kind of a custom keyboard with its own switches. And now that it's done, it's the nicest, relatively quiet keyboard I've ever used. So that might have been 2 years ago. I'm not sure. That's the thing. I don't often keep track of like what year I'm doing what, unless there's something that I make the connection to. That I have some reason to remember the year. Okay, yeah. I'm not remembering others, but there probably were some. You're on record as pro-forest and anti-desert. What do you make of semi-arid or Mediterranean landscapes? They're not really my favorite either, but it's kind of in a similar category as desert for me. Is they can be cool, but it has to work at it more. Like, say it's like you mentioned, Mediterranean landscape. Say it's like that, but then you just have like this fabulous, like over the top, like ancient Greek inspired fantasy architecture everywhere. Well, that could be awesome, So it just depends. Like, or if it's like in the desert or an arid area, but things are like incredibly mysterious, where then I'm really getting engaged in the surrounding atmosphere with it. So it kind of has to work harder for me personally, but it can still be good. Yeah, or since I mentioned Mediterranean, not exactly what I mean, but I'm thinking again, old. Well, yeah, okay. In the chat, what are your favorite arid or like Mediterranean inspired landscapes in games? While you're typing that, I'll think of. I was gonna say in Need for Speed 2, there's a level in Greece, and the level itself is just kind of okay, but the music is so good, and it has an obvious like even though it's kind of like rock and electronic, it has obvious like traditional Greek influences to the music, and it's just awesome. So, uh, let's see. So yeah, it's all about the culmination of everything. But yeah, I'm kind of biased against deserts and arid areas. Yeah, Saki Kaskas was the composer for that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Like, there were multiple composers on Need for Speed 2, but I think he did that particular track. I mean, the early Need for Speed games just overflowing with fantastic music. Yeah, I want to say one through four and Porsche Unleashed, and after that they just started taking more licensed stuff. Okay, people are saying Assassin's Creed, God of War. Yeah, I mean, like the old stuff was so good they reused it in Mass Effect 2, and then that went kind of viral, you know. Yeah, with the Callista. Yeah, I mean that's from Need for Speed High Stakes. They just copied and pasted it in Mass Effect 2, and then that went a little viral. So because yeah, that music was like ridiculously good for. Okay, so I'm saying Witcher 3 Blood and Wine DLC. Okay, they say it has an Italian feel to it. Let's see. Well, I guess I am interested. I don't know if this counts. I'd really like to be able to play Forza Horizon 2. And that's in southern France. So that's kind of like a, Mediterranean-ish feel to it from what I've seen. It looks really nice from what I've seen of the game. So, yeah, I wish that one was one that got a port. Yeah, and even then, that's one where there's kind of a big difference in visual quality between the Xbox 360 version and the Xbox One version. So yeah, that's one that's really kind of the best version is really kind of tied to the Xbox One. But yeah, I like the look of that. Let's see. Any interest in game dungeoning Kenshi? Well, that kind of goes back to my bias against deserts. I mean, I've seen screenshots of. I mean, I'm not trying to downplay the game at all because from what I've heard, it sounds like it's very deep and has like that kind of squad-based action RPG thing I'm looking for. But like every screenshot I saw, I thought this is kind of ugly in tone. Like it's like we have several different kinds of wasteland and desert, and then real arid area. Maybe there might have been one with some vegetation, but I don't know. It just gives. It's just a personal preference. It's just that some environments just give me this kind of blah feeling, regardless of how the game is, and I try not to really play those. So. Okay, so I'm saying Zelda games have some. Yeah. Oh yeah. What was it? Wind Waker. Although, yeah, I haven't played Wind Waker, but I wasn't as interested in that one. Partially because the art style wasn't quite my thing, even though I can appreciate how people like it. The Zelda game I want to play the most is was it Twilight Princess? That one like just from the aesthetics, some screenshots I've seen, that looks more like what I like. So, and it's werewolf themed on some level. So sure, you know. Okay. When will you cover Still Life 2? Maybe it'll be in the follow-up. I don't know yet. I'm undecided if I want to cover the full game now, but I'll for sure give some follow-up to it, one way or another. Okay, this I already answered. So I'm saying any other YouTube channels you watch or recommend? I mean, I have not been watching much at all lately for YouTube. Sorry. For I'm so far behind. Like even people I like, I'm probably a year or two behind. Like with what internet comment etiquette or even weird video games like that. Let's see, Civ 11. I'm way behind on. So I'm just behind on everything. Thoughts on the PlayStation outage? They're saying maybe it can be used as advertising for Stop Killing Games. How would you try to tie it to the campaign or make an ad for it? Well, if you... Stop Killing Games is entirely about if something like the PlayStation outage happened and then it never came back, so you lost everything that you depended on that for. It would basically make that unlawful, and the company will be liable for giving you the game in some fashion. So they could still shut down the PlayStation Network. We wouldn't try to prevent that. But for single player games, they'd have to give you an offline mode. And for multiplayer games, they'd have to give you some means to get multiplayer working again if you wanted to. Now that could get more complicated on console because if the servers the server would very likely be for hardware that it won't run on the console, so they might have to release that, and you might have to get somebody in the community to host a version of that, then connect to them. But the point is they wouldn't be able to make it impossible. But yeah, that's the thing. If the other thing I would say about it is, one problem we're facing at Stop Killing Games is it's kind of a boiling frog issue where, shutting down the PlayStation Network just going out like that gets everybody's attention. That would be the frog hopping out of the water and raising hell about this, which they should, because, they just temporarily, shut down tons of their games that people like and wanted to play. And they shouldn't have to deal with that crap especially if it's like an offline thing, or single player. But what tends to happen is more of the boiling of the frog analogy, where they're just killing them one at a time and kind of slowly accelerating it. And these are always games that are never at the peak of their popularity, or it's just a small minority of people who still care about it. So that's how they kind of get away with it, to kind of make it more of an industry standard. And I mean, I saw this coming a mile away, but I wasn't able to act on it until last year, really. So... But yeah, no, it's the same concept. Now, we're not trying to penalize companies that have temporary outages. So, I mean, if they had a screw up but it comes back next week or something, fine. It wouldn't affect that. We're looking at the permanent shutdowns. And I want to say PlayStation did that though, where with Sony, where I think maybe the Little Big Planet 3 stuff. They brought it down and they said it was going to be temporary, but then later they said, nah, just kidding, it's permanent. So yeah, as soon as they say it's permanent, or, once a reasonable amount of time passed, like 6 months or something, then yeah, something like, if Stop Killing Games passed, then it would go into effect. But yeah, I mean, that might be another way to reach people, though. In some ways, yeah, it depends. Like with predominantly console players, I could see it going either way, because on one hand, some of them are going to have a stronger sense of ownership than PC users, because they're used to buying the disc, and that means it's theirs forever, or it used to mean that. So they're still with that, and they're thinking, of course I should get to keep my game. What the hell are you talking about? Whereas others might be more used to, once a game shuts down, that's it on the console, and they don't get a second life with it through community, private servers. So they might see what we're doing as just fantasy and just we're being ridiculous. So it's hard to say which way it might go, but because I've seen both from kind of like predominantly console players, that some of them, they're even better at grasping this than a lot of PC gamers, and others it's like they just surrender way too easily. So it's hard to say. Yeah, I think I've given them a hard time, but the people who are really big on physical copies, uh, there probably are more sympathetic to what we're doing because they want to own their damn game, and they should want to own it. So. Do you have any memories of the arcade, and what arcade games do you remember playing the most? I have lots of memories of the arcade, though not a lot of actually playing, because that would cost money, and I frequently never had money to play that. So I would just kind of go to them, watch the sort of demo loops, and then just hope somebody would come along to play and watch them, And I guess the best memories are like for stuff like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, where you sometimes would get a crowd and they would have like a tournament. Basically all that was missing was just a handful of people placing bets on this, because it would get that lively, with people like shouting what people did like a cool move or had a reversal or that sort of thing, So, or if they pulled in Mortal Kombat, if they pulled off a fatality, everybody was hoping that would happen. Yeah, I guess for the ones that I played, I think the ones that I remember the most are Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game, and the Simpsons arcade game. Just the sort of like beat 'em ups. Let's see if I'm trying to think of some others that I might have played. There's one I don't even remember. Man, that's a challenge. There was one I don't remember the name of at all, but I would probably recognize a screenshot of it if I saw it. It had almost like, not quite NES level graphics, but kind of like that. I remember it was like a platformer side scroller where you're going across the screen. It was in the day, so I think the background was either like a light blue sky or maybe white. So this was like a cruder look to it. It wasn't like the more developed ones that came later that look awesome. I remember it. Yeah, it was in like some stadium. I have no idea what the name of it was, but yeah, that's one I forgot. I actually played a little bit of Mario Brothers, not Super Mario Brothers, like in an arcade machine. That one wasn't in the arcade, but it was just at some like sort of small grocery in the middle of nowhere in Tennessee, where they had a Mario Brothers arcade cabinet, and that was pretty much the only video game, and who knows how large a radius. So I got to try that. So I was saying River City Ransom. No. Okay, when I say a background, it's basically it looked kind of like mountainous. Not. I don't remember any vegetation. Like it looked like maybe a video game portrayal of Mongolia or something, but like more, very retro graphics. So it probably came out in the 80s, and it was just side scrollers. So it's like when you talk about the background of Super Mario Brothers, it would be like that. It's just like clouds basically. But it might have had like Double Dragon level fidelity, but Karnoff, maybe. Let's see. Karnoff screenshots. That is a good guess if that's not it. I'm not sure. I'd have to look through its stages. That's definitely a candidate. Yeah, that's a solid candidate, Karnoff. Wow, you guys pretty good. Okay. Oops, did I lose my place in the questions? No, wait. Yeah, okay. Let's see. And here's something I just noticed on Reddit. This question was automatically shrunk up. That might be how I sometimes skip questions I didn't even mean to. So, okay. And it's not like it has like negative votes or anything, so. Okay, but that's not the next one. Are you excited with the recent advancements on AI, especially the games test software that were made by AI trained only on video imagery of other games? Your dream software may be coming closer to reality to explore game worlds untethered to the dev's initial vision. Yes and no. I think we talked about that in a previous video chat, but the short answer is they seem more about reproducing the image. Yeah, so it's like yes and no. It's like I really want them to just like move a little bit to the left in their focus. Where they're focused on generating the image as though it's what you would expect from a video game possessing those traits. And that creates kind of this like soupy / AI creepiness feel to me. And I'm not the biggest fan of that, though it's still very impressive. What I want them to do is to have the AI take its absolute best guess about what the 3D architecture is and what all these textures are, output that to a model or like a map or something inside Unreal or Godot or something. And then once it has that map, then it tries to guess what's going on from the interactions of the footage. So if you like fire in the game, if you fire a bullet at a window, it's going to flag that space that the window is at as something that's like a sort of a destructible object. So it'll change from like this flat polygon to maybe, you know, a physics object that acts like the force game. There's going to be a lot of guesswork on there, and it's going to get a lot of things wrong. But the thing is, just getting that world into the engine and having it guess a lot more on like what sort of entity this is. Okay, this looks like an enemy that has this shape, and when it attacks, it plays this animation and contortion. So I'm saying that would take too much computation. Okay, well, let's say it does. Let's say that all takes too much computation. Well, then at least get me the game world. I'm pretty sure we can do that now if it was just focused in that direction. And the hard part is like stitching it together. In fact, there's a good proof of concept on this. I'll put it in the chat. Yeah, worldlabs.ai. Here we go. Putting that in the chat. Click on that and scroll down, and they have some demos you can try out. I want something like that, but it can stitch it together so it could be like the entire game world if you're feeding it enough footage. I think that's the only component that's missing, and then we have game worlds. And then once we have that, that's pretty much the first layer of the dream software for me. Then I'm living large on it. So I'm excited, but not the particular direction they're going for it to generate the frames for it. I mean, I could end up eating my own words on this, but to me, I don't really like just raw AI art. It's kind of grown on me in a way I don't really like. It has, you know, a touch of uncanny valley feel to it. And I instead of kind of like AI enhanced stuff, you know. Oh, somebody's saying too uncanny for me. Well, okay, don't judge that fully because they're generating the 3D based on an AI generated image. So it's like a copy of a copy. If they were doing that based on an actual game footage image, I think the results would be very impressive. So yeah, if you're not won over by that demo, I'm kind of seeing more potential than maybe some people are from that. So. Yeah, someone's saying a lot more. Yeah. So yeah, it's more like whatever that demo they have in the World Labs thing, imagine that was from something like Destiny 2 instead. So they took the Destiny 2 footage and then they put it in there, and then I think it would look a lot more favorable. So, I mean, there'll still be a touch of the AI creepiness, but I think a lot less if the AI's goal is to basically convert this into 3D and get the textures as accurate as it can from the footage, because it has a different objective then. So, okay, more questions. Is there any activity which you would feel confident in doing or absolutely not if you had someone or something guiding you through it? Example, piloting an airplane with a pilot on the phone telling you what to do, or performing surgery with an open manual with photos or videos in front of you. Essentially, assuming good but indirect assistance you feel okay or not in unknown scenarios. I mean, I guess I'd say generally it would be okay. Like, if I was having to land a plane, but like the pilot, like on the radio, was telling me exactly what to do, I think I would have a fair amount of confidence for that. For surgery, yeah, that would be rougher. I mean, because I guess my main concern is things could go, well, two things. One, I'm not sure my ability to distinguish what the important parts are from, like from one vein to the next, or like subtle differences from like, what does this bump mean compared to something else? Two, if it was not just for surgery, but if anything that required a really steady hand, I'm not sure I wouldn't, like, let's see, how are my nerves? That's not too bad, but I don't know if that's surgeon level, if the margin for error was so small, I wouldn't want that. The other is, if the time frame from when something can go wrong is so fast, there's not enough time to wait for an answer from the person on the other end. That would be a big concern. So if you nick something and then there's profuse bleeding, I may not be able to know, I may not understand what to do fast enough. So that would be a concern. But then there's also the concern that maybe the person on the other end isn't going to be the best at explaining it, in which case they might omit a detail that's incredibly important, when they're not thinking of it because it's so second nature to them. So I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't want to have to do surgery, but I'm pretty sure I could stomach it. Like in high school biology, we had to dissect rats at one point, and they only had so many rats, so they paired us into partners. And the guy I was next to, he was a complete pansy about it. Like he was just kind of like this the whole time. And like, it's not like I liked it. I didn't like any of it, but I'm just like, okay, he is not going to do anything. I think I basically barked at him to at least do the paperwork for us if he wasn't gonna help at all, because it was supposed to be you each do it, but I realized I do not want to have to try to get this guy to operate on it. So, I had to cut open, identify which parts, and not pleasant at all. I didn't like it, but I can stomach it. So it's, so I'm pretty sure I could handle that, but at least for, short to medium durations, and then just, I would want to kind of detox mentally. But, and in case anybody's eating, I won't tell you a story our biology teacher told us that's kind of funny, but it's not a good story if you're eating. This was this was the one that was shrunk. So, if people had to serve prison sentences in virtual worlds, what game world would be the best prison? Chat, you tell me. I mean, really, it kind of depends on your view of prison. Because some people, like, to me, the purpose of prison, the primary purpose of prison is just to protect the rest of society. So if you have some psycho that's causing problems, okay, just separate them from the rest of civilization so they don't screw everybody else. Other people see it more as like, no, they need to be rehabilitated. I think that's great if it can happen. I am more skeptical as to. I think that varies a whole lot on the person. Like, because some people, there's just I think there's like no hope. Others, it's like even prison is probably too much for them. They didn't need this. So it's just, you get the full spectrum. because they're already repentant, for what they did, or even if they're not repentant, they really understand that like this was a huge mistake and they should never do it again. What? And then there's the kind that's about punishment and can be kind of vindictive. They want the people in there to suffer for their crimes. I'm not in that camp. I just want the problem contained. You know, it's so I wouldn't really want a prison. I'm all for, if you're in prison, I kind of feel like that's punishment enough, and it's just having your freedom removed and having your life kind of under control of guards and that sort of thing. I feel like that's kind of punishment enough. So if your life can be easier while you're in prison, all the better. I mean, I think the only time when it becomes kind of a conflict is in some scenarios, probably maybe more than Europe than United States, or almost certainly more than the United States, is when sometimes the conditions for the prison are nicer than what the average person average civilian, non-criminal is dealing with. And then I can totally understand there's some envy on that. But it's like, well, wait a minute, why do they have like decent health care, or they don't have to do anything all day and they still have, still have decent meals and entertainment and stuff. Meanwhile, I'm busting my ass laying bricks or something, So I can understand the resentment on that, though. I feel like focusing on making the prisoner's life worse is the wrong direction. That's the wrong direction to steer that resentment. Instead, it should be like, well, that means we need to make regular life better than if the prisoner's life is better than the non-criminals. So, whereas that's a much bigger societal question. It's like how you go about doing that. So, okay, let's see. Do you think that's just the American in you, though? Because there are actual measurable ways to help people rehabilitate. Just look at giving the prisoners cats drastically reduces recidivism. Well, I say some people. It could even be a minority of those. I mean, it depends what the crime is. Okay, like if it's like, larceny, absolutely. It's, I mean, unless they're an actual kleptomaniac, and even then, that could be kind of, they probably just need more like psychological help rather than punishment. But whereas if they're, so when I was thinking of that, when I was saying there's just no hope, I'm thinking of people like, like Jeffrey Dahmer, or just people that are they're just too far gone. Like these are just keep them away from everybody else. That's what I'm talking about. Like your serial killers or people who are just really warped in the head and just doing horrific things. Yeah, because if let's say it was a murder, but it was like in the heat of the moment or something, and like really was like a culmination of lots of other things. Yeah, I think somebody like that is redeemable. Yeah, so I think most people are redeemable, but I can understand. I guess the more practical side of me is, I wouldn't operate assuming rehabilitation is going to happen, is what I'm saying. And like, to me, the most important part is just try to stop them from being a problem for others. So yeah, I mean, and beyond that, yeah, like I'm not in favor of making their life as miserable as possible, because again, I think just having their loss of freedom and being controlled is the way to go. But yeah, I guess we got kind of off topic. Let's see if people are saying armed and delirious for the prison. I thought I saw one other answer, but I missed it. So yeah, I don't know what game would be. Well, I still need to play. I am kind of curious because I normally don't play movie-based games, but I did like the movies, and a lot of people say they're great. There's the Escape from Butcher Bay or Escape from Dark Athena or the Chronicles of Riddick games. So maybe that would be a prison. But okay, if we want, what would be the most humane prison? What would be the most humane video game prison for people? Because I can't imagine the Riddick one will be. Uh, I'm not sure. Tell you what, I'll try. I don't have a great answer for this, but I'll try to check back on the chat to see if we have a good answer. Let's see. Oh yeah, here's one of the harder questions. Do you still have passion to make videos like Game Dungeon and Freeman's Mind, or does it feel more like a job at this point? And then somebody below them was saying they think the quality of Game Dungeon's gone down. And look, here's what I think: it's kind of the same as it's always been. This is one I might not answer in the future because I don't like focusing on this angle of it too much. I feel like it's the wrong direction. I don't mind doing Game Dungeon or Freeman's Mind, but the thing is, I have more ambitious things I'd like to do even more. To me, it's kind of siphoning time away from the movie, and my attitude about them will be different if like the movie was done. Because like I kind of want to do more stuff like Civil Protection or small shorts or other things that are less kind of like on a track the way Game Dungeon, especially Freeman's Mind is. So it's not like I dislike doing them. But so the passion, those have always been the compromises, is the way I look at it. Now, if the quality is dropped, I will say there probably is a correlation between how much time pressure I have versus the quality of the episode. Though I think the Culpa Innata one came out all right. That was, it needed work, but it was more the direction I wanted it. Oh, yes. God, how did I forget? People are mentioning Gothic 1. Yeah, hey, the prisoners have a lot of freedom in Gothic 1. So, yeah, that's... Yeah, I mean, within the barrier. Yeah, that's not a bad answer. God, I don't know how I forgot that. So, yeah, time pressure does hurt the episode. I think I can. I think I can still do some good ones, though. It's just sometimes the more rushed I feel, then it can erode it. But I still try my best to make it better. I will try to. I think I'm aware of when it doesn't come out just like how I hoped it. Like it doesn't kick off, and I try again, but I don't always know how to make it better sometimes. But I for sure feel like I can. A whole lot of it depends on the game and like what kind of thoughts I'm getting from it. Like, because I feel like the Gothic one could have been improved a little bit. But yeah, it's... And the thing is, they mentioned... Yeah, see, here's the thing that threw me off. Because they say they rewatched Game Dungeon episodes since The Division, except maybe Trickstyle and Kyrandia, things got pretty streamlined and never reached levels of quality earlier episodes. Okay, now Trickstyle, I think that had a lot of good parts that I liked to it. That had more of that feel that I wanted. Kyrandia felt more like a lot of the ones that I feel like, this didn't quite land the way I wanted to. But both Kyrandia 1 and 2. So it's like, I don't always know what's landing with people. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. So that's what I was surprised about, that the Kyrandia, they felt like the Kyrandia episode was one of the better ones. Whereas to me, that kind of felt the same as though what I did with like Gothic or Yuppie Psycho or Division, where it didn't quite hit the highs I was aiming for. So I'll just say I'm aware of it and I'm trying, Have you considered telling stories that you tell in the video chat and the proper videos? If they're relevant and they feel like they fit in, I would. Also, a few things I haven't mentioned, and ones I want to save almost exclusively if I can ever get it animated, because I think it would be a fantastic video in its own right. Now, I have a couple of those, and I've kept those out of the chat. Well, yeah, I think I mentioned one of them. My first Dungeons and Dragons game. It's relatively short. I don't even want to spoil anything beyond that. Like it's this would be I think this one would be a crowd pleaser, but based on real imagined events. So. Okay, I'm shortening this question. They're saying they're curious about the idea of like MMO emulators where you can adjust which version of it you're playing, because they're using World of Warcraft as an example because a lot can change between the different expansions and the feel of it. Yeah, actually, that's something I was curious about because I don't even know now with World of Warcraft. Because World of Warcraft, it's one of those where I really find the world interesting and neat, but I really don't care for that kind of gameplay. Mostly, it just the combat just feels like a chore to me. But I do like the exploration element of it. But for World of Warcraft, to me, my understanding is like the big dividing line was before and after Cataclysm, because then they reworked like the main Azeroth thing for the landscape. The gameplay they change frequently, I think, for like having different subsystems and upgrading weapons and stuff, or all kinds of features. Like, but what I'm wondering is, if you were to play it now, could you go and see like, except for the difference between like Cataclysm and pre-Cataclysm, could you see all the content of the previous expansions, or like 98% of it, or is it the sort of thing where like no, they took away like big chunks of it between expansion to expansion? I'm actually not sure. Like if you were to go in now, could you see all the content from like Legion or something, or something like that, like get all the missions and the story or something? But yeah, I'm all for games that have a lot of content differences. Of course, I'd want people to be able to choose which one. I've just haven't been pushing that with the initiative, just because we're just trying to get a foothold here. That's the sort of thing somebody else could carry up on. And I think I said before, what was it? I forgot. Yeah, sorry, brain hit a stop again. So before, I just lost it. Damn it. Maybe I need more certain kinds of vitamins or something. Although I blame some of it on keeping the door shut, because I'm wondering about the airflow sometimes. But yeah, okay. I forget where I was going with this. But yeah, oh yeah, that was it. For was it Deep Rock Galactic? That they announced that they have this mode. If you want to experience all their previous expansions, you can just select that mode and try it that way. I'm thinking that's like the best of all worlds, where they can kind of keep continuing with whatever the latest thing is. But if you want to sample the past stuff, you can. I was thinking, yeah, that's how it should be. I mean, they've I've seen some of that in Path of Exile, where some of it they roll into the main game, and then other elements they just kind of drop, or you only get a little bit. Like they'll eliminate dialogue, story. They usually roll some of it into the main game, but it's no. It would be nice if there was a way to kind of retain more, because yeah, like if you wanted to talk to Parandus, I'm not sure you can do that now. Or yeah, they got rid of the prophet. Oh, what's her name? I forget the name. The from the Prophecy League, they got rid of that. I think they got rid of that almost entirely, and that kind of sucked too, because that had one of the better track. Navali, thank you. That the music to the Pale Court is pretty awesome, and that might be gone from the game now because that was part of that expansion. So yeah, I'm not a fan of that either. I mean, I can understand if the devs want to, they decided like this gameplay was a mistake or they want to move on. But you gotta, I think for like big games that are changing a lot of stuff, I think it'd be good to have something to, let players who want to experience the past stuff have a way to do it in some form. But I don't think we even got an answer on World of Warcraft for how viable is it if you want to play through all the past expansion content. I think it is, but I don't know. I mean, there'll be some things that just change permanently. Like I think with Stormwind. If you were to like for what's going on, that seems to be reflected in the city in some way. Like and then that can change over time. But yeah, so I'm all for that. But I'll aim for whatever we can get. Now that you've lived in Europe a good bit, how do you compare its natural landscape to the U.S.? Oh, well, I mean, there's lots of regions in the U.S., and I actually haven't been globetrotting all around Europe. I mean, I guess compared to Poland from where I used to live, the forest density is much lower, but that results in a little bit different pattern to the trees growing, so it's kind of more exotic, and it feels more like a stereotypical kind of fairy tale forest from how the trees develop and things are, there's not just rough underbrush everywhere from compared to where I'm from. Well, it's a lot less mountainous than for where I'm from in Virginia, where it's just forested mountains all over the place. But but in southern Poland, which I haven't been to actually, I mean the real south, then they have impressive mountain ranges. I've just never been there. The thing is, travel costs money and time, so and since it's not like I have designated time off, it's always like a double combo effect with me. So, it's not only like the expense of like traveling, but that's time I'm not able to work on more stuff to be able to earn. And the thing is, I'd be totally fine with that. It's just I don't want to like let people down or, have my income drop too much. So I'm kind of what's the word? Kind of a conscripted workaholic. Like I don't want to be one. But I've run into too many situations where it feels like that's the only way out. So, thoughts on multiverse shutting down in May? Could be a good topic for Dead Game News. Well, I'm actually, believe it or not, I'm actually trying to retire Dead Game News for anything that's not just real important for the campaign. Like, look, the campaign is it. Like, once I'm done with that, I mean, if people really want to interview or something, I could do that, but I don't plan to keep talking about this because it's just underway and I'll have done literally everything I can that I know how to. So whether it's solved or not, because I'll feel like, well, if the problem keeps going, it keeps going and I'm not going to change it. So that sucks. And I don't really want to focus on it anymore because, I mean, I tried, I mean, I'll still be totally interested in the, game extrapolation, AI assisted stuff, because that'll be a way to preserve this. But for the law, I mean, and things shutting down, it's just going to suck. I'm not going to keep talking about it just to be angry at something I can never change, But fingers crossed, we have some luck on this. Either we get the signatures or the consumer protection agencies come through. But yeah, for multiverses, okay, see, this is where I say it's always such an uphill battle just covering this properly. Okay, okay, chat, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding of multiverses is they're shutting it down, but they're going to add an offline mode so you can keep playing it. But that's kind of a tournament fighter. So you would kind of want online multiplayer for that. And that's kind of a big kind of, depending on how you played it, that could be a crippling change to the game. So on one hand, it's great that there is a form of it to play, even if it's all tournament play offline anyway. Okay, so you can't, but can you like connect over the internet to play against opponents? Okay, I'm just assuming you can. If I'm not, you can throw out everything I'm saying. I'm assuming it would be something like, Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat or something where yeah, of course you want to play like other people maybe at your skill level online. Um, if it's like that, then it's great that you have the offline player mode, so it's still preserved on some level. But I mean, if we're really trying to preserve the game, that's not good enough. I mean, especially for people who put money into it, where it doesn't need to connect to them, but it does need an option to connect to somebody else, so somebody could host it or and can host it and connect to it. So it's, I mean, look, I'm not gonna. I mean, unless it's just incredibly reckless, like I mean, maybe like Concord or something. I'm not gonna penalize any company for just ending their game whenever they want it to, but at the same time, give them a chance to play it. And I think a lot of people were chalking this up like, oh, this is a win because it's they're making offline mode. Well, if all it ever was a single player game, then sure, that would be a win. But since it was met as a multiplayer game, and I'm assuming also an online multiplayer game, it's not. We're aiming for a higher standard than that. However, just the mere fact that they're doing that puts them just leagues ahead of, I don't know, 95% of the industry on this. So it's like, I am glad that they're doing that, but our standards should actually be a little higher than that even. So, and this is where people are just thinking I'm just ridiculous and want pie in the sky stuff, but I'm just giving it to you straight. I bet, you know what? I'm really curious now. I bet you for like old PC tournament fighters, if they had internet functionality to begin with, you could still play those. Like maybe from like 90s even. Where if you put in the IP address and then just connect to the person. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, they're saying it's still a dead game technically, even if it's brought back by modders. Well, again, that depends on how you're defining dead game. I mean, I define dead game as no one can play it. Like if the game's playable, but it's through modders, then it's just kind of a resurrected game. Is the way I look at it, or unofficially brought back, that sort of thing. Okay, I got distracted there. Is there any dev based? Yeah, this question. Is there any dev based in the EU who you would like to sign the SKG petition? Who would it be? Well, if I had to choose one, I think what would get the maximum publicity would be Ubisoft. Now, of course, that's never going to happen, but that was the question. If I could have one dev based in the EU to sign it, yeah, that would just that would be newsworthy. That could maybe get us enough news cycles to get enough signatures to pass it. Somebody mentioned Crow Team underneath this. That would be great. Though, honestly, since the entire goal is just to get the signatures, the bigger the better. So, really, the best one might actually be CD Projekt, because they're a big developer. So, if they were able to throw their weight behind it, that would help a lot. But I don't know. I think the bigger a company is, the more gun shy they're going to get about even touching this sort of thing. I mean, it is a change to the industry, and a significant one if it passes. Okay. What is your opinion on the new project, both with regard to Stop Killing Games efforts and in general? I feel like there are a lot of parallels between what they tried to do then and what you're trying to do now. Yeah, and you'll have to forgive me because I sometimes get mixed up between what's the new project, what's just general Linux development, what's the Free Software Foundation, and what's just like, I don't know, I just get kind of confused what's what. So yeah, I think I looked this up ahead of time. Though, let's see, new project, under the philosophy section, they kind of spelled it out. Yeah, okay, philosophy of the new project. Yeah, and they're saying that free software means users have 4 essential freedoms. To run the program, to study and change the program in source code form, to redistribute exact copies, and to distribute modified versions. Well, for what we're doing with Stop Killing Games, we're only aiming for one of those 4, which is run the program. I'm considering everything else a bonus. I'm of course in favor of all that other stuff, but it's, you know, I've had a conversation with someone who's like really pushing, like, you know, free and open software before, and it's like, I'm for everything they're talking about, but I also think it's kind of like saying we should get rid of the monarchy in the Middle Ages. It's like, yeah, I bet a lot of people agree on that, but I mean, they still are controlling the knights, and they can just send people to cut your head off if you're too uppity. So it's, you know, it's like, that's a great goal, but I just don't see a path to victory on it other than just, you know, winning over developers who are agreeable to the objectives. So yeah. Look, I'm usually, I want to see like 95% of the time, if people are aiming for goals that are more radical than what I'm doing with Stop Killing Games, it's very rare that I'm against them. The only time I might be is if I think they're like overlooking like a huge problem towards pursuing that. And I feel like if it was done, and by saying problem, I mean like permanent, unsurmountable problem. Because, like, let's say if you passed law that required all software to be like open source and distributed and everything like this. If you just did that immediately, that would cause, like, especially for anything security related, that would just cause like an incredible upheaval in everything. But where, you know, and also with economic disruption, however, I think a lot of that economic disruption would be against essentially giant fiefdoms anyway that are kind of strangling creativity to some extent. But security would be a real concern. So, but if that was like, let's say that's the end goal, but we're going to implement this over a span of 20 years or something. So like by the end, all software has to be open source and redistributable. Even then, there could be an exception, a really serious exception I'm not foreseeing. But I think like 90% or more software, I think that's a sane solution. Now I don't think that means like giving away all your rights to it, but it does mean giving away a lot more than the existing standard. So, but again, we're talking, in my mind, we're talking fantasy. I mean, it's like overthrowing the monarchy in Middle Ages. Even if you manage to kill the king, there's going to be another lord or monarch that's just going to be ready to take it over as soon as you're done. You know, it's like that's a change that took a really long time. So yeah, I'm all for this stuff. I just don't have faith in it being able to change the landscape in a really significant way, except for like kind of small or very specific wins. But well, I guess it depends on how big and targeted, because I guess we're seeing that now a bit with the DeepSeek AI, where they released that, and that's that's becoming like a semi-existential crisis to the AI industry, which is trying to build its own sort of kingdom where there's only a few players. Whereas, bam, here we're coming along open source and it's as powerful, so they're all panicking because this threatens a lot of the business model. So yeah, it can have big victories, but man, look, I'm having enough trouble just being able to not have the games that you paid for destroyed. So I don't feel like I need a harder difficulty than that. Okay. Let's see. Are there any plans to combat the growing indifference to the campaign? Yeah, I'm trying, but I mean, see, that's the other thing is even if you get a lot of people on board, if they've already signed, it doesn't really matter because they can't sign twice. So it's more than just hyping people up. It's about like trying to get just new people who just don't even know about it, but would sign this if they did. And to make it extra difficult, I think the lion's share of those people, English is not their first language if they speak it at all. So how to reach those, that's tough. I mean, yeah, like I've mentioned before on the Discord that we're running that, you know, let's say a medium-sized gaming YouTuber who's only in a non-English language, you know, like Spanish or German or something, or Italian, they could be worth as much as an English YouTuber who might have a million or two subscribers. Because like on my videos, I think the EU constitutes about like 15% of the viewership, something like that. So if it's like that for other English focused channels, well, then you might get the same numbers as like a targeted one versus a big English one. So okay, okay, I'm gonna skip a little bit of this question I've answered in other places before, and if I have more interviews, it might come up again. Okay, somebody's saying want to know about the update to the GUI video. I absolutely plan to do that, but I don't have a timetable for it yet. I want to get more. I want to have a lot of cool stuff to show everyone. In other words, I want to warrant this being a new video so that it'll feel like there's a lot here that I'm showing off. That's kind of the goal for it. Because there's been new stuff I've seen, and I want to show a lot of things in action. Show what hopefully will be my new desktop, which could operate quite differently than what you saw in the last one. So I just had any more time to throw at it. If Neuralink allowed you to be inside video games, would you do it? I'm kind of chicken on that sort of thing, but if it's the sort of thing where like this was just tested for like decades among millions, maybe billions of people, and proven, if it was as safe as flying or something like that, then yeah, I probably would. But anything less, I don't think I'd be first in the door on that. I'm squeamish about having surgery to my brain. So same for my spinal column, you know. Okay, here's a good question for the chat. Feel free to throw out answers. Who is the toughest video game character you think you could defeat in hand-to-hand combat? You have 2 months to prepare for the fight. Okay, I looked at like a list of like some popular video game characters. I think we should automatically eliminate anyone who's like a trained military or defense person or like a soldier, because they're gonna know all sorts of techniques and everything. Let's see. I was thinking, because so it's gonna have to be like a little lower than like your typical video game protagonist. I had a few. Oh, somebody's saying Postal Dude. Yeah, if it's hand-to-hand combat, so he doesn't have weapons, yeah, I okay, Postal Dude's a good starting point. Because there's a few things to consider. There's like their physique, there's their general fighting ability, and then there's like kind of their inner ferocity. So Postal Dude has the inner ferocity. So yeah, you would get full marks for that. But like, let's see, he's not going to keep himself in the best of shape. So he would fight dirty. So let's. Yeah, I was the one I was starting to think. I was thinking like Prince of Persia, Sands of Time. I don't think so. I think he's way too versed in combat. He's more fit than I am. Not a lot. Let's see. I have some muscle, but I'm not like a juggernaut. You know. Yeah, it's like thin from this side, but like thicker from this side. I'm pretty agile and quick. I think my inner ferocity is relatively high if I actually had to fight someone. Yeah, okay, yeah, and when I was looking at the list, I saw Guybrush Threepwood. Yes, I can take on Guybrush Threepwood. so we can continue climbing. Postal Dude, from Watch Dogs, maybe Aiden Pierce, because you don't see him do. He's using a lot of weapons and his hacking ability. Maybe it would be close. I think it would be close against Aiden Pierce. You can pretty much eliminate anyone from like a fighting game like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. I'm not going to make it them. So he's mentioning Gordon Freeman. Maybe. I mean, I think Gordon would have the inner ferocity, but he's mostly using weapons. So especially if I have time to train it. There are a few. I'm not trained in martial arts, but there are a few really practical moves I know very well. So, like if somebody was just to come at you, I would know a couple moves very well. But if I have too much to, I guess the question is, does the opponent have too much to train also? In which case it'd be kind of set. But yeah, if I had 2 months to train and Freeman did, I think I could take Freeman hand to hand. Yeah. But because then I'd have the advantage of training. But I think it would be close without training, because this isn't his thing, but he would have gotten a lot of, he would have developed a lot of skills, and maybe not hand-to-hand combat skills though, and gotten fit from the Half-Life experience for sure. Okay, so let's see, what are they saying? J.C. Denton, if you hack his augment, no, not J.C. Denton. He's a trained agent. Luigi, yeah, I think Luigi. Yeah, assuming they don't have like power-ups, you know. Let's see. Yeah, Lester the Unlikely. We can do better than that. Roger Wilco, yes, I could take on Roger Wilco. Let's see. Atreus. Well, that's not. He's still a child. Well, I guess there probably was a never-ending story video game, but yeah, yes, I'm assuming I can take on most children without supernatural abilities. Yeah. That was another one I thought. I think maybe Link, if we're talking hand-to-hand combat, because Link's fit, but I think he might have a little bit smaller build, but I don't think Link is, okay, Legend of Zelda fans, correct me, I don't think Link is necessarily going to fight the dirtiest. And I might be willing to go lower than he would. Like Link has heart for sure. And he has perseverance, but I don't know if he has quite the same. I think he has more integrity. So, and that would be a weakness in a fight. Because like if as soon as Link gets a weapon, then I'm at a disadvantage. Link wins once he has a weapon. But if it's just hand to hand, you know, then yeah, maybe. I think maybe Link. Crash Bandicoot, I'm not familiar enough with. Portal protagonist. Okay, Shell. Shell has the inner ferocity for sure. I don't know. I mean, I might have strength advantage since she's a woman, but I mean, yeah, wasn't she already a prisoner? So I shouldn't even assume that. I don't know. That could easily go either way. I don't think that's a done deal. I would need more details, because you know, if you had to, because wasn't she in like a tough prison? I don't remember. Is it? Oh, Atreus is the name of Kratos' son. Okay, I haven't played the new God of War, so I have no idea. Could Ross take on Senator Armstrong? Not from the cutscenes I've seen, I couldn't. Yeah, if they have like a really big build, then that's gonna work against me. Let's see. Max Payne. No, he's a cop. He would know a lot of takedown. And he'd be tough. Like Max Payne could take a lot of hits. So no, I don't think I'd win against Max Payne. Because even though everything you see is in gunplay, I guess it depends on how sober he is. Like, so if we're talking sober Max Payne, I think I'd lose. Barney Calhoun, he's trained security. I don't think so. I think I'd lose against him. Golem, yeah. Okay, Golem, it would depend on the environment. If it's just like a plain arena with nothing around, then yeah, I think I got Golem. But if it was something where he could hide and like throw rocks at me or something, then yeah, he might get me. I don't know Wei Shen. Mega Man. Well, Mega Man's a cyborg, so I don't think so. Agent Tethers. I think so. I mean, even though he has training, mentally he has a disadvantage. I think I would have more ferocity. Odessa Cubbage. Well, he's older than me. But I mean, was he a soldier in Half-Life 2? Former soldier? I can't remember. I mean, I don't know. If he's an old soldier, don't count him out. You know, he might still be able to thrash me, you know. James Sunderland. Oh, that sounds, I forget who that is. Okay. Sounds really familiar. Let's see. Oh, Silent Hill 2. Yeah, he might be too depressed because he'd be pretty fit. And well, he's not. Yeah, especially if I had, yeah, I think so because I would have the advantage of my will to live would be stronger than his, like all the way. And he's not. But wait, was he a veteran? I can't remember because, like I think he's wearing kind of like a military jacket, but like in the game he kind of acts like it's, you know, he's an amateur like melee combat. So I don't know. Yeah, let's see. Serious Sam without what? Not a chance. Serious Sam would rip me apart. Dr. Betruger. Oh, is that the guy from Doom 3? Yeah, okay. Well, pre-mutated Dr. Betruger, I think so, because he's old and he's just a scientist. And, like, doesn't look like... I mean, he has kind of a stocky build, but he doesn't look like he's done a lot of fighting. So as long as he doesn't use, like, hell energy on me, I think I could take him. The guy from Alan Wake? You mean Alan Wake? I'm pretty sure Alan Wake is the guy from Alan Wake. Well, yeah, that's something I was going to bring up, actually, if I ever did a video on it. Well, Alan Wake's a writer. But, however, that's a little misleading because his real life actor model, it looks quite fit. So it's almost a little bit like, yeah, and Alan Wake, the character 100% because he gets winded so easily, at least in the original game. I haven't played 2. So yeah, I was even going to make a whole segment on that if I covered that in a game dungeon because Alan Wake gets winded. I have 10 times the stamina of Alan Wake. So it's... Gilly from Street Fighter 2? No, not a chance. Nobody in Street Fighter. Like unless there's like some obscure character I don't know about that's like a mascot or something. I don't know enough about Pokemon. I still haven't played through Dishonored though. Dishonored looks like... Is Crow the main guy? Let's see. Crow Dishonored. I mean, I assume no. I mean, that, yeah, no way. I mean, yeah, Corvo. I mean, the main guy in Dishonored is like is like a royal bodyguard. I mean, give me a break. That's gonna be top tier. For, like, no way. Knuckles, I'm confused on. It depends. Like, if he really has like supernatural strength for his size, then no, Knuckles would crush me. But if he has about the strength you'd expect for a person that size, yeah, maybe. I don't know, because he's short. Okay, well, I think Raymond. I don't know, Raymond. I might lose against Raymond because I wouldn't know how to defeat him. Like, okay, I've got his head, but he's punching the crap out of me. You know, like, I don't know. Raymond might get me. All right, I think I'll. Oh, Isaac Clarke. That's well, Isaac Clarke's a wild card because I don't know, because I mean, he's not fast in the games, but he always has like a spacesuit kind of armor practically on. So he probably has a lot of strength. But he's also, his mind, I might have a mental advantage over him, but he would have been pretty hardened from the Dead Space experience. So I don't know. All right, so well, I think we have enough candidates. What? So okay, so who's the toughest? I think Aiden Pierce is up there, but Link, or somebody mentioned somebody else, I forget. Okay, is James Sunderland a veteran though? Okay, let's see. If he's a veteran, I don't know. Commissioned into the British Army in '93. Okay, so I don't think I could take confidence at James Sunderland, unless he's just really depressed, because it could be muscle memory for him how to do a takedown, you know. Wait, British. Wait, did? Oh wait, no, that did Google. Oh man, Google gave me an AI crap. Okay, no, that's completely unrelated. It's somebody else entirely. So forget what I said. Okay, so James Sunderland. Oh yeah, that was another one I was thinking. I don't think I would do well against Frank West either, because he's stocky, and he can fight, and like, yeah, I think I'd lose against Frank West. Yeah, he'd be able to keep his nerve for sure. I don't know who Frank Horrigan is. Let's check. Because some people, this looks like a futuristic super soldier cyborg character, so I don't think so. Okay, it's from Fallout. Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, no, of course not. I mean, all right, so who's the toughest out of the ones I thought I could take down? Let's see, there was, yes, so we have Aiden Pierce, Link, maybe. Like, I think I'd have enough confidence to try against Link. Let's see, who are the others? Let's see. Somebody's saying Henry from Kingdom Come Deliverance. Well, you get a lot of combat training in that game, but I think it is more about swordplay. Plus, he'd be in very good shape, like somebody from the Middle Ages. Yeah. I mean, in terms of just muscle and strength. Yeah, Larry Laffer, of course. Like, yes. Okay, yeah, Gordon Freeman. That is. Oh yeah, Postal Dude. Okay, so I think that's the tier I have a decent shot at. So, okay, we have Gordon Freeman, which is more of a maybe. Link, kind of a maybe. Aiden Pierce, a maybe, and I feel kind of confident against the Postal Dude. If we're just talking hand-to-hand combat. So, and if I'm going against the Postal Dude, I should probably cut my hair, because he would fight dirty. So, All right, I think that's enough. Somebody say Jack from BioShock. Jack, I mean, Jack's like a sailor. I mean, he's gonna be pretty tough, isn't he? Like, I mean, because he has those like tattoos from. I wouldn't want to take on your average sailor. I mean, they're gonna be pretty tough. So, yeah, because I'm okay. So yeah, I think that's the tier of like characters I think I would have a decent shot at. So, okay, that was a good question. And did I lose my place? No, here it is. Wait, no, or maybe I did. Okay, yep, I lost my place. Okay, give me a minute. Let's see. So Curtis Craig. Well, I would feel bad, but yes, I think. Well, yeah, of course. Curtis Craig gets killed a lot. I would feel bad about it, but yes, I think so. No, this is a good question. Yeah, somebody's talking about making a tier list. Yeah, go for it. Yeah, because there's several. Because like I'm below par a lot of video game protagonists. Again, being a trained soldier of any sort, that automatic I'm gonna be below them. You know, or a game where they really show off their hand-to-hand prowess. Or if they're just real bulky and tough. You know, like it might not do too well. So. But I am above Guybrush Threepwood level and several. I guess yeah, Leisure Suit Larry and Roger Wilco. Yeah, I am above that level. So okay, yeah, that was a good question. Oh yeah, there's another question I didn't like. Okay, yeah, I like the previous one about which one can I take on, but do you feel like, as one of the older, still active YouTubers, do you feel like age is catching up to your creative output? How do you stay motivated almost 20 years on to keep putting out content? Not really. I mean, I feel like if it gets bad, I can always, get myself more off camera, more just directing. I mean, again, with the creative output, it's really just a matter of like having time and just not being stressed out of my mind for that to work. I mean, probably, those moments where I'm just like, what the hell was I talking about? Yeah, you can maybe blame that on age, but they're saying they're in their mid-30s, they feel the cognitive decline mixed with life stress. Well, I think a lot of that can have to do with like your work or your demands on your daily life. I mean, I'd say one thing that does kind of impact me more than age, at least so far, is like my brain chemistry can be it's not perfect. I mean, I've mentioned before I had major depression in like my late teens, early 20s, and mostly got better from that. But I still have echoes of it. Like, and I get the feeling like I'm not operating optimally. Like, for example, maybe I shouldn't say this, but like when I wake up in the morning, it's sometimes like many times from the time I wake up to actually getting out of bed, it can take me literally half an hour to get out of bed, where I'm just like, I just think of like everything I have to do, and it's just kind of like, and I don't know, it can kind of weigh down. But usually once I get up and I'm moving around, and not longer later, I'm all right. And I almost kind of resent the fact that, I'm trying to stay off sweets, not always successfully, but sometimes when I have sweets, the next day, my motivation level can be amazing. Like I can get, my productivity can just go up like double or sometimes even triple. I mean, So it's like, that makes me think something's not completely right as to how it should be, but I'm not sure what. So I was saying I can take over an hour to get out of bed. Okay, from when they're up. It's so I feel like it's part of it's state of mind. Part of it I really think is chemically attached somehow, but uh, yeah, I don't know. It's yeah. So I don't think that's age so much as just something not being quite right in my brain, and of course, this just makes me think of like the tagline for Carmageddon, the racing game for the chemically imbalanced. So, okay, another mystery question hidden. This is a hard one. What game would you make if given unlimited resources in 2 years? There, in all honesty, I would probably spend a day or two focusing just on that question to figure it out if I was, but just off the top of my head, um, I might make something that's like a planet side-ish inspired game. You know, if we're talking unlimited resources where you're conducting like a sci-fi war campaign, but make it kind of friendly for single or multiplayer. Like they could even be separate campaigns. But I mean, I love the idea of just having like this long, drawn-out war campaign, the sci-fi war campaign. I mean, other things. I mean, just again, completely off the top of my head. I mean, it's hardly original, but I like them. Maybe something like for less ambitious, something like a Castlevania clone. Jeez. Maybe something in the spirit of They Are Billions. That one was really great. You know, like kind of a strategy game where you're surviving against just like overwhelming opposition, that sort of thing. Jeez. And this is the sort of thing where, like, I would take this so seriously. Again, I would just spend the whole day figuring out like what would be the best kind of game to make for just a big budget. Let's see. Trying to think of some others. Like, yeah, you know, I guess another possible option was in Path of Exile. I really enjoyed the Blight map mode. And I was thinking, I wouldn't mind expanding at something like that. Kind of a, well, I mean, the game Death Trap kind of did this, but I think you could take it to even bigger heights. Something where it's like a action RPG slash tower defense-ish hybrid that you have some kind of control over which direction it takes and give it its own kind of campaign. Somebody was saying that's a trap question. They got him. I don't know what the trap was. So. I mean, these are all games I think, you know, see, you notice in all these games, I'm not talking about how much fidelity we have. Like in the graphics, it could be pixel art. It could just be kind of low poly stuff like I showed in talking about Gothic in the Gothic episode. So to me, that's almost irrelevant. Like, I mean, it is for production. It isn't for production time, but for like the kind of game I would make, it's just like, yeah, if we can shave a couple years off by making it like lower definition, sure, let's do it, you know? But yeah, no, so those are just some off the top of my head. I mean, yeah, I'm trying. I this might be harder for 2 years, but a Dungeon Siege spiritual successor. That one might be trickier to get under 2 years, though. Let's see. Like even for the, I mean, like a planet side kind of successor, that might be too ambitious too. But if you kept the quality, if you kept the asset quality low, I I think you might be. You can get like if you had like a whole team of people, I think you can get stuff off the ground a lot faster now. Like if you have lots of funds. And then, like, see, the kind of game you really, okay, I could be way off here, but I think the kind of games that come to mind that there's just no way you can do it in 2 years are ones where, like an MMO, where like the scope is just enormous, or yeah, just any enormous game like a GTA kind of thing, or Star Citizen. Let's see, or also the more photorealistic you're going for, I think that can add a lot to the time too, because that all that fine tuning and everything, stuff with like lots of animated cutscenes that can slow it down. Big extensive RPGs can do that too. Stuff that have like really long stories, that'll also like add to your time a lot. Yeah, like I can't even fathom like a game like Baldur's Gate 3 in that amount of time. Or whereas something like a Castlevania clone, if you have lots of resources, you can hit the ground running. You might be able to have like a preliminary map design within a few weeks even of all your levels or something. I mean, even then, the PlanetSide 2 thing sounds ambitious, but I think is like, as long as you didn't, I think it might be doable. If you have unlimited resources, so people are just so you're figuring out what all your assets needed are within the first week or two. Then all the artists and everything are working on that, and then you're just working with stand-in entities for figuring out the campaign and stuff. And then your story, I think, would have to be delivered kind of like, like Supreme Commander style, where it's kind of like just, a portrait talking and that sort of thing. I think that would keep the time under control. But okay, I should go on. Somebody's saying a Diablo 1 clone. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, where you're kind of keeping it. You're not going for all of this. Well, no. Either you're not aiming for all of this exotic end of life build stuff where people keep playing it forever and ever, where you have all these intricacies, or you do have that and you just don't give a damn about the balance. Just say, yeah, whatever, here's something cool, we added it, have fun. And so then you'd end up with just tons of overpowered builds, but whatever. Yeah, you could maybe add in some real blunt difficulty modes to account for overpowered builds, I guess, just send the numbers to ridiculous rates. Okay, I should do some more stuff, but I mean, answer more questions. Okay, somebody's asking about the movie. Well, somebody gave him a reply. Real short version, it's going to be a 3D animated movie. It's intentionally not going to have the best graphics to keep it just within something I can actually accomplish. I want to stay on the safe side of the Uncanny Valley. It's going to be a comedy adventure movie in a medieval fantasy setting. So it's essentially kind of like what I did with Civil Protection, just on a much larger scale or longer. And have a more developed plot, characters, and that sort of thing. Whereas all the Civil Protection stuff's relatively short and contained, or lower in scope. And that's what I'm trying to get back to, and I'm embarrassed how long it's been delayed for one reason or another. So I really need to get making it. Okay. Yeah, they're saying... Well, okay, I should correct this. Okay. From watching your Game Dungeon videos, it talks about VR. Seems like what you really enjoy most about a game is exploring it, the world and environment. Not necessarily. That is what I enjoy most about VR. And that is a common trend in games I want to preserve, where I like the worlds. There are plenty of games I just love the gameplay of, or love the story and the world. But yeah, so not necessarily, They understand you like to preserve the whole game if possible. That's what the campaign is doing. But do you think you've been biased towards the world and ignoring other aspects of the game? I mean, maybe a little bit, but I don't think that's really impacting any of what I've been trying to do in a negative way. So I guess what it is for a lot of games that people can call crappy, the worlds can sometimes still be awesome. And that seems to be almost even more relevant now with a lot of... How many AAA titles have been released in the past few years where the game is not that great, but the game world is kind of cool? I'd say a lot, you know, so it's like, it might be that that's getting more emphasis from me because that's more of what we're seeing in like the big marketing. But for VR, yes, guilty as charged. That is my number one interest for a lot of VR games, is to just get immersed in the world. But for other games, no, it depends. I mean, what I mentioned, Phantasmagoria 2, that's one of my all-time favorite games, and it's for the writing. And, you know, the setting, it's like, I don't really want to live, I mean, in that kind of world because it's really just 90s Seattle. I mean, it'd be kind of neat having the familiarity of it, but, you know. Let's see what... I'm trying to think of one where it's like the gameplay above everything else. Well, I'm sure there are games with better... Well, Supreme Commander is up there. I mean, I like the atmosphere of Supreme Commander. I think the story is interesting enough, but it's the gameplay that is just the star of the show for me. So, I mean, the other stuff is good, but out of all of it, it's the gameplay that's the best out of it. So, yeah, that's another example. Okay. How do you conceptualize your role as a content creator? What activity do you primarily identify with? Or do you think you fill for your audience? Well, it kind of, I get, they're saying, do you think of your channel as being primarily about bringing lost media back to light, a consumer rights activist? What do you think that's generally original to the content each video is about? Okay. So, no to that. In fact, I want to get out of that as soon as I can with the bringing back lost media. I mean that's dumb luck when it happens. I mean, it's pretty rare. I mean, that was what, BitBop, sort of the cave, the cave world thing. I mean, not really. That was never lost, but it kind of got opened up more. But and the consumer rights activist, that's just a giant detour I never wanted to take, but I felt like if I didn't, nobody else was going to, and that would have just haunted me. So that's why I kind of want to conclude the campaign one way or another as soon as I can, but I'll still I'll stick with it as needed until July, but I really want to kind of minimize how much I personally have to keep driving it. No, what I want to get back to, even Freeman's Mind and Game Dungeon, I kind of see as like a lesser detour. What I'd really like to get back to would be stuff kind of like the Civil Protection, or which I'm kind of taking that all on hold and want to put all that energy into the movie. So I guess ideally my role that I see myself would be kind of as a director of like something with a fun script. But I have to do a whole lot of stuff to make that happen. And it involves many things to also, you know, put food on the table. So I feel like a whole lot of what I've done, it just feels like a long roundabout detour. But yeah, I mean, if I didn't have to earn a living and I wouldn't be letting down tons of people, I probably would just be doing the kind of creative shorts or longer films or something. Although I do hate animating, so it's kind of a love-hate relationship on that front. But if I had a lot of resources, somebody else could do the animating. Okay, we got another request for the Neverhood. I still haven't played it, but that is way up there for requested games on Game Dungeon. Okay. Somebody's asking about Civil Protection. That's on hold until I get the movie done, is the plan. And then I'll reassess where I'm at. And so he's asking, making longer form videos about games. They're talking 4 to 6 hours essay. God, no. I mean, to me, that's just too long. Like, I kind of consider any game dungeon that goes over like 40, 45 minutes a bit of a failure in that respect, that I just couldn't keep it tight enough. So I kind of want more shorter quality over quantity kind of thing, and have to figure out more to jettison. So they're saying they've seen a lot of content creators do ads, do sponsorships, and others sell tons of merchandise, but they've never seen me do that in my videos. What's your opinion on this? What do you think is the line between earning a living and becoming a sellout? I just really hate having to deal with that stuff. So as long as I could probably be earning multiples more money if I did do that stuff, but I just really don't like doing it, and I feel like it cheapens things for everyone. Well, plus I hate business. I hate having to do business stuff. I mean, for people doing it, I feel I have a home advantage of being on YouTube a long time, so I don't feel like it's that fair for me to judge what others are doing on it if that's the only way they're able to make it work. But I personally don't like that stuff. But it's, yeah, I mean, I guess there's exceptions to the rules, because I guess what my favorite example of that done right is like really funny commercials. Like I think back to Ernest. That's how Jim Varney got his start as the Ernest character, is by doing commercials for local stores and stuff, and a lot of them were hilarious. So I mean, I do have. It's like I want to keep the entertainment quality there, but it's real hard to do that when you are just pitching a sale of something. It's possible, but it's hard. So okay, I'll get through a few more questions, and we'll go to the chat. Are there any supernatural concepts that really freak you out? Not really. I'm really not that superstitious at all. Like I feel like I feel like if there's any truth to that stuff, I'm immune to all of it. What's your favorite piece of history from at least 300 years ago? I didn't see that question. Okay, so that would be what? 1725 and earlier? I don't know. I'd have to think about. I mean, I guess part of me likes the concept of, like, the age of exploration, even though a lot of it's really awful colonialism. But just the concept of there being frontiers that you have no idea what's out there. Let's see. Oh yeah. Regardless of your beliefs, assuming God was real and you could ask them a question about any aspect of our reality or the future of mankind, anything like that, what would you ask? I had to stop and think about this one a little bit. What I came up with was, is there anything I should know that would really benefit my existence? Because I figure if there's a God, I may think I know what I want, but maybe I don't. The God's going to know better what I should have. So I would ask them if, yeah, that's the question I would go with, because it just defer to their judgment on if there's some knowledge I'm really lacking that could make, yeah, I say existence too, not even life, just because, I don't know. Somebody says they would ask for money. Yeah. Yeah, like in the Demonica episode where he talked to the ghost and he's, where's my money? Okay. I didn't see this one either. What would you go about improving, reforming police and law enforcement in the U.S. or even the world for sure? Well, I mean, that was the. Geez, I'd have to look at I'd have to look at a lot of information to be able to comment on that, but to figure out like where the lowest hanging fruit is. But I've one suggestion I've heard floated around that sounds reasonable is try not to have the police take on so many roles. So if it's something where a social worker is better, they could be on, like if somebody is like mentally unstable or something, but it's a little where they have more training for that, and you're sending cops more for the investigating actual crimes, or some guy's breaking into my house, or there's some screaming guy with a knife. Oh, I've heard one of the biggest things cops do not like doing that they get called to a whole lot is basically acting as marriage counselors, where, a couple's just shouting and so the neighbors call them, so they have to go there and play marriage. Cops don't want to do that, and there'll probably be workers that would be better at that. So it's, somebody's saying you would still need force if they get violent. Yeah, you would need like specially trained people for that. But I mean, you have EMTs and firemen going into situations that could sometimes, or firefighters that can go into situations that can turn violent. They have some training on that. So I think depending on what's going on, if it's just a complete mystery, then yeah, you gotta send the cops. Or if it's something that's violent or real obvious crime, then yeah, send the cops. But if it's something that's like, again, like a couple arguing, or a guy who's just wandering the street screaming at people and doesn't have any clothes on. Like, okay, this sounds like something. Well, actually, the cops could probably handle that okay too. But if, like, let's say you have a jumper, yeah, cop's not the right person to send for that, So that's. So I was saying, but you would still need force so they get violent. Well, they could have force. It's not that they can't carry force. It's just that they would need training on that. But anyway, I don't know the best place to start on that. But there's a lot of problems, especially with U.S. law enforcement, that it's not obvious to me the best way of solving it. I'm going to skip this because this is just kind of a time killer question. They're just saying, how many American presidents can you name in backwards order from today? I'm pretty sure I could get at least to Carter. And then what was it? Johnson before Carter? Then Nixon, then... No, wait, it was Johnson before Nixon. No, it was Ford before Carter. And then Johnson before Nixon, I think. And it's kind of a blur for me. I mean, I know presidents before that, but I don't know the order beyond that. Because I know Eisenhower and JFK and Truman, but I'd have to stop and think about it. Okay, are you investing in a S&P 500 or crypto? No, this is one of those tricky ones where, like, for cryptocurrency, I'm not investing in it, but I have accepted it as donations back before it was something as big as it is now, because I figure, okay, if there's a lot of tech people who some of which want to send me pretend money, sure. I am totally not too proud to reject something like that. And every time I've spent it since then, it's been a mistake. So I guess I'm kind of holding on to that as something that I look at it as better odds than a lottery ticket, which isn't hard. But I have no idea where things are going with crypto. For S&P 500, with stocks, it's kind of, there's been a lot of barriers for me on that, just because, like, accounting, like I mentioned before, I hate having to do business stuff. it's not that I can't do the number crunching on accounting. That part's easy, but like the taxes involved and knowing which laws apply to what. And part of me has always kind of viewed the stock market as gambling, and especially because I'm someone who kind of saw some of the impacts of the 2008 crash, where a lot of savings got wiped out. And my understanding is the stock market's overinflated as it is, though it's probably going to keep going up for another year or two, but then we might have an epic crash. So I guess if I was going to invest in stocks, I'd want to do it when things have crashed, when everything's like real low. I don't know. It's just, I have so little confidence in me being able to kind of navigate something like that. Though it's probably to my detriment because, just having a savings account means you're losing money over time, or the value of it, because just inflation just kind of keeps takes away from it. Because it used to be, way back, it used to be if you had money in a savings account, the money you made on interest would be higher than inflation. Those days are gone. So if you just want to have money for retirement, it's like you kind of have to figure out something else. I mean, technically, even precious metals, I've heard they have like a 3% inflation rate. So, but that's probably going to be more tempered. Crypto, like Bitcoin in theory is, well, okay, in practice and in theory so far it's deflationary, assuming it just maintains that. But maybe something happens in the future that causes Bitcoin to lose a lot of value for some sort of societal reasons. That seems like a possibility to me. So it's like, what's the least risk? I guess real estate tends to be relatively solid, but you need a lot of money to have real estate, so in the first place. So I don't know what the answer to all this stuff is. That's... So no, I'm not invested in them. Maybe I should be, but you're welcome to email me on this too, if you feel like you have a much better idea of where we're going on that. The only thing I'm relatively certain of is the dollar. It's not stable in the long term. Like, the interest on the debt is now, I think, the third highest expense. I think it surpassed the military last year. And I think it's supposed to just keep increasing at an exponential rate. So at some point that just dwarfs everything. So we either hyperinflate the currency or else default on the debt. Either way, that would kind of crash the value of the dollar. But even with that, I think I mentioned before, my understanding is the derivatives market within the stock market is valued at $2.5 quadrillion. So in other words, more money than exists on Earth. So this is not a stable system we have, So that's about the only thing I do have confidence on. But for time frames, who knows? I thought things would have crashed, but my understanding is very limited because during the pandemic, so the supply chain was seizing up. There were mass layoffs. The stock market just kept going up and up and up. So it's like the stock market is like 2 thumbs up for like the pandemic economic disruption. So I don't. That's what I'm saying. My understanding is limited for sure. I've gotten this before. Pineapple on pizza? Sure. I'll take lots of toppings on pizza. Now, this question did get downvoted. I don't even understand. I'm enough out of the loop. I don't even understand the question. They're saying male/female or body type 1/2. I understand male and female. I don't know what body type 1/2 is. I've heard of ectomorph, endomorph, and mesomorph, but if they're asking which one I am, I think I'm ectomorph. I'm kind of thin build. So. Uh, okay, I'm gonna skip some questions more. This got negative votes. It's just sort of a, in my opinion, it's sort of a speculative question, but it's just kind of dumb, I thought. So I may skip some of them. Dumb, it didn't seem that funny to me. It just kind of like dumb and just like, okay, I guess if you were doing this, you'd do this, you know. Oh yeah, okay, here's a question that got -1, but I'm gonna read it word for word. I don't really have an answer though. Has anyone really been far even as decided to use even go want to do look more like? That was word for word. Okay, so the next question. We make a game dungeon for Get Even. I haven't played it, so I have to check it out first. I'm gonna skip a few more. I think might be fishing for details in the movie. Okay, well, I should clarify this one. Why are you so dismissive of refunds as a form of combating games being killed? In their mind, if a company had to choose between making games last forever and refunding every single copy sold, they would choose the former 100% of the time. Oh yeah, if it was refund every copy, sure. But that's not what was going on in the UK. Like, it would be for people who are actually raising the complaints, and that's gonna be like 1% of the buyers. So the what? So it's like there's like a hierarchy of how they're supposed to address it, and believe it or not, repairing the game or repairing the product, that's what the customer is asking for, that is one of the higher tiers. However, all the company has to really do is say, oh no, we designed it so we can't repair it. Okay, fine. And they'll almost certainly just say, okay, fine, let's move to the next option. And then the next option is store credit, or not even store, I was simplifying saying store credit. It's more likely something of comparable value. So if you were trying to get a refund on the crew, you probably could file a complaint against Ubisoft, go through if you're in the UK, under the CMA. I forget the process now from which office you're going to, but you probably could do that. I think one person said they did do that. And instead of giving you money back, you would get a voucher for a copy of The Crew 2 on your account, or maybe just some other random game like Trials Fusion or something that it's in their house. So I was simplifying the video, saying it's effectively almost a coupon. That just it wouldn't make a difference. So yes, I am in agreement. If it meant 100% of copies sold got refunded, then yes, I agree with you. But I think it would be more like 1%, if that. So it would just be statistical noise. Okay, a few more questions. Okay, somebody's recommending Dungeons of Eternity for Steam VR. Yeah, there's a lot of VR games I want to try out once I upgrade. Okay, I can add it to my list. I've mostly been keeping VR games separate from the list on the site because I figure most people aren't interested in that, but I have been keeping a private one for myself. I could share that if people wanted. Okay, I might skip a few more because there's a lot of questions. So I'm just skipping the ones I don't have like easy answers for. Okay, I'm skipping some more. Let's see. Oh yeah, this was a good question. What are your thoughts on growing trend of modern games launching with increasingly demanding hardware requirements while delivering subpar performance? Yeah, and many arguing that graphical fidelity peaked around 2015. Now we're seeing diminishing returns. Yeah, well, I agree with that statement. But they're basically, the point is they're unloading optimization onto frame generation or upscaling or something like with DLSS, XeSS, and FSR. I don't like it for multiple reasons. actually one of the biggest ones I haven't even heard many people talk about is I think this is actually, it's kind of bad for preservation in the long term because like DLSS, that's a proprietary solution. If you want to run DLSS, not only, yeah, it's a proprietary and a specific solution. One that's only for NVIDIA hardware, so that's automatically eliminating AMD. I mean, I guess Intel too, since they're trying to compete. But the other aspect is that's only for titles that are big enough status to have submitted their game to NVIDIA and for them to run their processing on it and maybe even put it in their drivers. But that may or may not, that last part may not be necessarily true. But the point is, but if you're just like some random indie dev that doesn't have a lot of context and kind of low budget, you probably don't have those kinds of contacts that NVIDIA is going to pay attention to. So that's not a universal solution. I kind of, like if you could use DLSS on any game, or just like any DirectX 11 or 12 game, something real wide spread, I'd be warmer to it. But I really don't like how it's proprietary because NVIDIA had NVIDIA is getting more and more of not monopoly hold, but like pre-monopoly status with gaming. And we're kind of seeing that now, how they're just gonna kind of turn the screws on people once they get to the point where they feel like they can safely ignore the competition. Because that's what's happening with the 5000 series. Like, they're using that same damn connector that can maybe melt things. The performance jump is almost nothing. Yeah, in fact, I'm gonna go Nostradamus here. I thought this might have come up on one of my interviews, but it didn't. I'm gonna predict that the 5070 has about maybe 5% performance, maybe 10% performance over the 4070 for games that are unoptimized for either one. So, if it's like a big flagship title that they're tweaking the drivers, like Cyberpunk, or like what's a big popular one right now? Let's say well, it's not been out a little while, but let's say Baldur's Gate. Titles that like everybody knows about and they're known benchmarks. I'm just going by like what the estimated like raster graphic performance is, like the teraflops. Yeah, Path of Exile 2. Maybe like one of the, was it Monster Hunter Wilds or something? Yeah, like a big, like the new Final Fantasy Rebirth. Yeah, so something like that. So not those titles that are likely to get a lot of attention, just something that's still pretty graphically demanding, but it's not like a high priority for benchmarkers or NVIDIA. I bet it's going to be like between 5 and 10%. And that might break the trend. There might have been one case where AMD did that, I'm not sure. But traditionally, the average is about 30% generation over generation for the same model class. And they're trying to fill in the gap with more frame generation. But again, I think it's not universal. So, yeah, I'm looking at this as almost like if you fast forward 10, 20 years from now, these are going to be like landmines for getting these games running in the future. And the other element of this that I think is not good, well, I don't know. Maybe people see. I think NVIDIA is absolutely kind of abusing their position that they pretty much own the high end now. If you want the fastest card, it has to be NVIDIA. And so they're pricing it that way. And now they're giving really marginal upgrades between the last generation because they know AMD's hasn't been able to keep up. So I'm wondering how much of that is them just abusing their market share and their position, and how much of this is us getting closer to the end of the line for how much we can really make the cards faster and develop. I mean, we're not at the end of the line, but we're past Moore's Law. So I'm kind of wondering how much farther we can really go on this, especially since the The 5090 is using, what, 575 watts, like normal. I saw an article that said that, yeah, it can spike to 900 watts. So it's like, that's a lot of power. I mean, at some point, like, the power out of your wall socket becomes a limiting factor. I mean, so I don't know. And if we're getting closer to like the limits of how fast we can make things, I mean, there could be breakthroughs. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm saying we're seeing a slowdown for sure. Then we really shouldn't be doing all these tricks to get the games just barely working at playable speed, because there's just going to be no headroom going down the line. I think maybe the kind of final frontier for performance might be in optimization. Like with, unfortunately, that might mean it's going to be more of a pain in the ass to program for. But I've seen small miracles in performance if the code is like really optimized for the hardware. But yeah, I really hate how we're going, how we have brands associated with whether you can run like DLSS, or I guess FSR is universal, but maybe it's better. XeSS isn't. But yeah, I don't like that trend. I really like having like open standards that everybody can kind of compete equally on, because that helps preservation and it's kind of better for the consumer overall, I think. Because even if NVIDIA is doing everything better, like in theory, then they're just going to abuse it once they're top dog. And so in the long term, you kind of want them not, you kind of don't want any one player coming out on top. So yeah, it's not good. Well, I guess we'll see what happens though. And yeah, and I mentioned previously, I really don't like how the new Indiana Jones requires ray tracing, because that's another that's a real big performance hit. Just even running that, and that's a lot more power consumption too. So I really hope that's just a one-off. I really hope that's a one-off and it's considered an oddity in the future. Like, oh yeah, like, so in 10, 20 years, somebody's talking about, yeah, oddly enough, this game required ray tracing. One of the few games, like somebody's talking about. So I hope it's kind of a one-off. So yeah, I mean, because if ray tracing was just increasing, if the performance was increasing at an exponential rate, so that like in 10 years, we're talking about something that's 4 or 5 times faster, okay, then maybe it replaces things, even though it's really power consuming. But I mean, I'm really skeptical on how much headroom there is at this point. So I'd love to see companies, yeah, people are mentioning Nintendo. Nintendo understands hardware limitations, about making a good game with hardware limitations. I'd love to see more companies take that approach where, hey, maybe we don't need the highest possible graphical fidelity to make a good game, and just we just have good art direction, kind of maybe, or even a little aggressive on the polygon budget, because then it can run on a lot more platforms and we can make more sales, Somebody's saying the next Doom requires ray tracing. Man, I hope not. Well, the Doom series kind of lost me, but I guess even if I'm not dying to play either of those two games, I'm curious about Indiana Jones, but I'm not like dying for it. That could be a trendsetter. And man, that's not a trend I like. Like I'm not even like I've upgraded, so my card, but I didn't upgrade my power supply, and I've never had instability with it. But I'm a little afraid to run ray tracing, because there was a test somebody did a couple years back where they compared the power consumption running a game with ray tracing on and off. I think it was on a 380 Ti. and the difference was 180 watts. And I'm thinking, that might put me over the limit on my power supply. So I'm afraid to run ray tracing right now. Okay, just a few questions. You can start typing live ones in the chat. Do at Ross Broadcast. I'll try to answer those while I'm looking at these. Oh yeah, somebody's asking about the blur effect for Freeman's mind. Yeah, contrary to popular belief, that's not what holds up the episodes. It adds time, but not a ton of the time. But they're saying 1 minute of footage uncompressed due to the source rendering takes about 60 gigs of drive space. Yeah, I think that's correct. I think it's about 64 gigs. But they're saying, do you have like 10 terabyte SSD, 10 terabytes of SSD space? No. What I do is most of the demos I can usually fit onto my 1 terabyte SSD. And then once I've recorded that, because even one full episode might be more than one demo. And then as soon as that's done, I go and compress it and move it elsewhere to kind of clear the runway. Now, in the event that the demo is so long that it's going to come out to more than a terabyte of storage, in that case, there is software to output it. I just plug in an external hard drive that might be like 3 or 4 terabytes, and then that should be able to handle the length of any of them. And there's something, did they fix the bug? Well, it wasn't really a bug preventing you from recording compressed footage, but their compression is too aggressive is the problem that Valve uses. Or it was last time I checked, like a couple years ago. Now there is a third-party tool. I think it's like Source 2 Demo or something that lets you save the frames compressed. And I think it was, actually I haven't checked that out in a long time, but at the time, one of the options was PNG files for which is lossless compression for the frames instead of TGAs, which can be either, but they're normally they're normally exported uncompressed as TGAs for the limit, and the PNG that did work, but it was a lot slower. So it would be faster for me running that demo, recording it completely uncompressed onto just some hard drive than it would be having it compressed in the PNG files, taking up a lot less space. But it took way longer because, I guess, of how it processed it. So, so he's asking, I still need to play the Streets of Rage series. That's what he says. I did play Mother Russia Bleeds, though. It was pretty good. I played it till the very end. I can't remember if I beat the boss or I just gave up at the end boss. I definitely gave up at the end boss of Slain, but I played it all the way until that. Thoughts on the French video game strikes going on recently? I actually hadn't heard of those, but in general, anytime there's a strike, I'm just going to automatically assume it's for very good reasons. And support the strikers or be in favor of them. Yeah. Okay, last one. I didn't see this. Oh, it's from 3 hours ago. Are you comfortable sharing your living expenses? Let's see. Well, it's probably going to be lower. I don't know. Put it like this. I think maybe I shouldn't get into that just because it's going to invite a conversation that's not going to be so fun. But if my income level absolutely fluctuates around the individual income level for the United States, the median individual income level for the United States, or did last time I checked. So not average household, not median household, but median individual income level is where it kind of fluctuates around there. So you can kind of make your judgment. Now, I do live in Poland where the cost of living is lower, but I also support my wife. So it's a trade-off. Tax rates are similar for my income bracket. Well, I guess the rent prices, I mean, it sounds like, from what I've heard, it sounds like everything's insane in the U.S. now. My rent prices now are kind of comparable to what U.S. was when I left. So food still less though. But yeah, it's about it's a balance that comes out in my favor, but it's yeah, because I think, well, here, let me double check the sources. If you type that in, what it's going to say: medium individual income. We'll try 2024. Okay, well, they're giving that by, let's see, what are the numbers? Well, one of those is way high. Oh yeah, that's household income. Yeah, not household. That's much higher. Yeah, it's more than half the median household. But okay, so I should answer the live questions. Are there any multiplayer games, mods with little to no players you'd like to see revived? Probably, but God, it's like I'm so busy now. It's like it kind of deprioritizes multiplayer for me. Let's see. Because a lot of them were just, that I remember, were just kind of interesting, but weren't necessarily my favorites. And part of me feels like we never, oh, the chat got paused, sorry. Part of me never feels like I've never played like the perfect multiplayer game, so I should kind of keep looking for more. But I mean, when it was well balanced, when it was well balanced and had a lot of players, I definitely enjoyed Fortress Forever and Team Fortress Classic for like the Dust Bowl level, where for the attack and defend maps, or the push maps. Those are the ones that I liked. I never care for Capture the Flag, but the ones where one side's on defense, one side's on offense, and it's just like until I played Serious Sam, I remember from TFC, I never seen that many bodies of just people, of just everybody getting blown up and shot up. That frequency in any other game, because it's just like, yeah, I would say like the road to victory is paved with bodies in that, because they just die. It's just nonstop with everybody shooting and trying to break through and that sort of thing. So, and my wife's knocking on the door, which means she thinks I might be going on too long. So I'll wrap this up pretty soon. Do you think you'll ever manage to cover all the games you want? Cover for Game Dungeon, no, probably not. But for playing them or experiencing enough of them to my satisfaction, I think I can. I may talk a little more about that in the follow-up episode. You mentioned watching Death Note in the past. Did you watch the sub or the dub? I watched with subtitles. And I only watched the first season because my friend recommended it, told me that the second season was crap, and I believed them, so. Or if I'm mixing it up, like or if the first two, and if there was a third, I forget where it ends, but I didn't watch the last one, so. Okay, I don't see too many questions. I think there were some more earlier, though. Oh, when will you watch Andor? Oh, I'm not in any rush. Let's see, Andor. Yeah, that's Star Wars. What I'm watching lately, because it's winter, watching they made a series kind of based off the movie Fargo, but it sort of mutates after the first season. It's pretty good. It's like, if you like the movie Fargo, you'll probably like the series. It's like dark. It's like crime that goes badly, and dark comedy. It tends to be the kind of the theme running through it. Will the movie be in like a festival or something? Well, that just depends when I finish it and what's going on. If some will take it, sure. All right, I think that's about it. Yeah, okay. So I'll be working on the videos mostly, unless stuff comes up on the campaign that I really should be dealing with. So that's I'm trying. I really am in a space where I feel like I've been giving it my best shot, and I won't just drop it, but the opportunity is going to have to come knocking, I think, at this point. So if you think you can do more on it, go for it. I mean, again, none of this even has to go through me. The signatures for the ECI, the Citizens Initiative, that's the number one thing that we can still have an impact on. All right, I'm going to end it on that note. Thanks for watching. I'll have more real videos as soon as I can manage. Sorry it's been going on. Sorry it's been so infrequent. I'm really trying to make up for it. I'll see you.